The only thing I will
What'd you
need,
say?
however... Right. So, last where we left off, there was kind of a few things that happened, that's for sure. Not too much, that being said, but first of all, we kind of got through with the night. Wasn't too difficult for me to sleep, fortunately, after everything that kind of happened. Either way, even if I didn't, we still had to get a move on, and after we prepared ourselves for that morning, we continued to move on forward, and eventually we got to our destination. We got a decent amount of money, not too much happening other than the fact that apparently we were supposed to be showing up second to our employer, but it seems as though the gnome, I think it was a gnome, right?
Halfling.
Halfling, thank you. I ain't too smart, okay? Damn. Um, but Halfling did not show up, and immediately after we kind of made the word go around, there was admittedly a little bit of panic. We could have just chosen to stay behind, but it seemed like the majority, including myself, kind of thought that maybe we should go out and make sure that they're okay. Met a new guy, that being said, Kessex Sir Odd. He's interesting character. I ain't ever seen anybody that beat up before. But I don't know. Now, I'm not one for first impressions, but he seems to be... Oh, well. I ain't gonna throw too many predictions outside right quick, but I feel like he's somebody that we can definitely trust in the long run. Even if he kind of has a weird everything. Well, either way, we're going backtracking through where he was supposed to come from. Just making sure that everything's all right down there. Left, I believe, just the morning after before camping out outside. Got to talk with Grotus a little too. Learned a little bit more about him and his name. It's nice to have a friend out here. I think that's just about everything.
That's good enough. You can take an inspiration for that. That was good.
Thank you.
All right. So, to Grotus and Xavier.
Hi.
As the two of you are about to finish your walk with the double nat 20s that so nicely push their way through the night, before the watch can end, to Grotus specifically, and Xavier, you can hear it to an extent. You hear what sounds like movement not too far off from the camp. Quick, hurried, something moving with a hurried step through the wood, attempting to run. And as you kind of listen to it for a moment, it definitely seems like it's not going to cross paths with your camp, but it's certainly close enough to hear.
Exactly how did you describe the noise before?
It is a hurried step. Creatures running through the bush. Clearly numbers of them. As to specific numbers, hard to tell, but you definitely hear it at different points where they are moving. No care for being quiet, simply in care for covering distance. Running through the woods.
Do we know the like north, south, east, west?
From where you are, you guys kind of went west-ish from where Teleburg was. It's probably going like from your west, kind of going to your south. Like it seems to be kind of crossing away from you, or crossing towards you, but doesn't look like it's gonna pass you. Doesn't look like it's gonna come into contact with you.
Grotus turns a. I think we should go check this out. There may be something there to this. Can get
Right.
along. He's probably best for this.
I ain't ever heard of nocturnal creatures stampeding. Hold on, we should make sure. And he'll quickly move over and kind of haphazardly move across along the faint shadows of the tent before arriving at Gallows, and he kind of just shakes him awake. Hey, Get up.
For a moment, he doesn't stir, and then after half a second, his hand snaps to grab your wrist. Snaps to grab Xavier's wrist, and he holds it tightly for a second as his eyes awaken. What is it?
He kind of, after a little bit of work, he kind of wrenches his hand from your grasp, and is just, all right, don't touch next time. There's kind of some commotion going on, and we need your pair of eyes.
Right. Right, get out. And he kind of lightly shoves him by the foot, but gets his puts on his leather armor real quick, just at least the chest plates, gets his bow and everything ready, as it's already neatly next to him.
Sure, it does take about a minute, but you are easily able to do it, as leather armor is quick.
Gets that on, has his tools ready, and he looks at both Grotus and Xavier. Where is it?
Tunnel's down that way, and I'll point the direction we heard it. Sounds like hurrying footsteps. Maybe a horror.
How many?
Just gathered a lot, you said, right?
You gathered, I'll say with a natural 20, you gathered probably still less than a dozen, but more than 4.
Somewhere between 5 and a dozen.
Alright, you know the signal. And he turns, pivots on his heel, and heads that way, and will stealth.
Alright. For the sake of this, if you are going to stealth, roll a... Oh, there it is.
Another nat 20!
Easy enough. I'll say with a nat 20 as well, you're able to move at a normal pace while attempting to run through the wood. For the sake of this as well, I need you to make a perception check.
Alright. 16.
Good enough. With Grotus and Xavier's guide as to where you were supposed to look, you kind of follow for about what seems to be maybe 4 or 5 minutes. No, not even. Probably 3 minutes away from camp. And you do kind of, as you get closer and closer, you hear the movement kind of start to slow down and be replaced from the crushing of branches and the quick, hurried step across dirt to this almost exhausted gasping. There's also a smell in the air that's kind of clear to you, this heavy smell of copper-like substance. You get a sense to be blood. And as you get closer and closer, you do see what looks to be, at a distance from you, maybe about 100 feet, you can start to spot their heads amongst the brush and shrubs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goblinoid-like creatures, 2 of which seem to be bearing decent wounds. One of them you can see is clutching his side, though you can't tell exactly what the wound is. The other, you can see there is 2 arrows kind of lodged in the back of his shoulder, and he seems to be barely standing. You kind of hear them all. They're clearly attempting to catch a breath, while a couple of them look behind them, look the way they travel. It seems they're most likely being followed by something, but as to their pursuers, you do not see them yet.
Alright. He's gonna sneak in just a little bit closer to his night vision distance, 60. Can I tell, like, either from any distance, what kind of arrows and what kind of damage they've been taking? Like slashing damage? Does it look like it's from a sword? Do the arrows look familiar?
Only 2 of them look to be wounds. It's hard at this distance to see, simply due to the fact that the goblin is clutching the wound on his side. You get a sense, most likely, the fact that it was either something like localized, like a something pierced through, or bludgeoning, as you can't see a wound from where he's clutching. The arrows don't seem to be matching with any of the goblin arrows that you've seen.
Okay. Do they look like people arrows?
Yeah, they look like pretty standard arrows. You see like a fletching at the back of like what may be like sparrow feathers. The arrow is decently long. You get a sense it's probably for, like active hunting use. And like I said, he's got 2 of them in his back, and he's like, you can see him kind of like going to pull them out, but kind of like stopping, and he seems to just relent to leaving it there.
Okay, so you said two of them were injured, and then the other four of them. Wait, no, sorry. There was like a dozen of them.
No, there are 6 of them that you see.
There's 6 of them. Okay, so 2 of them are injured. 4 of them are kind of like okay-ish.
Yeah, ish.
Okay. He will keep watch of them for, I'd say, like 2 minutes more. See what their behavior is like and where they, if any of them look like they're gonna, like looking in any direction of where they're gonna head next.
Yeah. You, for the sake of this, I'll say roll an insight, but it's not a terribly hard check.
All right.
Knock
Just
on
in terms
wood.
of trying to gather. You kind of look through. You notice amongst the goblins, while many of them are dressed similar as to ones you had fought before, you see one that seems to be wearing elements of metal on his chest, as well as having this hood almost pulled over his head. He seems to be an older goblin. And there's this very clear, like you can tell by the other ones looking towards him, that he clearly seems to be a leader of sorts. You kind of judge him for a moment. As he catches his breath, you kind of hear him. You speak goblin, correct?
I do.
Yeah, you kind of hear him in a hushed voice, just call out, "Do you see any?" The other one's, No, nothing. All right. You see them, like, trying to catch their breath, trying to almost be ready to run again. You very much get the idea they'll probably still run the direction they were running. They're just taking a break to see if they're still being followed.
Okay. In that case, Gallo will head back to the camp, and his expression doesn't look all too concerned, but definitely more enlightened now that he's witnessed all this. And he will walk back to Xavier and Grotus, give his report on what he saw. Looks like they're going to keep moving forward in the direction that they were headed, taking a break, but if we intend to pursue them, there is one that is leader. He may be trouble. My guess is wherever they're running is either a hideout or a base. It could be the Red Horns, could be any travelers, but if that was 6 of them, I'm not sure who's pursuing them.
Curtis just kind of scratches his chin in thought. Well, there's a chance, like you said, it's probably just one of the mercenary groups they ran across. But they're heading towards their base of operation. Given the fact we have no idea what's going on around here and that we're still missing the halfling that hired us, there's a good chance he's with them. But you said that you thought they were moving around to there. Let's assume they're later at this point.
We can assume the worst. There were only 6. If they're heading somewhere safe, there could be many more to deal with, and that can be trouble as well. But if we're running from pursuers, we could try to get in contact with them, see if they'd be willing to help us in this endeavor. But that could be anywhere, so it's not likely.
I'm thinking
That's also implying that their pursuers are actual people. I mean, you ain't seen anybody, right?
I did not see, but they used standard arrows used by people, but could have been taken weapons forged out of regular. Could be anybody. I didn't check yet.
Well, for the sake of the argument, it's obviously people they were fighting. I never knew a beast or a monster that generally used a bow.
Oh, well, but I guess I kind of missed that detail. And he just kind of rubs out his arm. Right, so, I mean, the way I see it, yeah, we could come into contact with the pursuers, but does this even concern us?
Whoops. Give me a second.
Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is, it doesn't really... I'm more thinking along the lines that this might lead us towards our employers.
You
The thing with
think you can
Hellman.
find a lead?
We're basically out here looking for nothing at this point. For all we know, that is Hellman and his lizardmen that were the pursuers.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I mean, so what are we gonna do? Are we gonna wake everybody up and pursue after them, or?
I think our best bet might be is if we do wake everybody up and maybe go meet up with these pursuers the goblins were facing and try to catch up with them before they get away.
All right.
Talk to them. As for chasing down the goblins, we can track them down after. I think it'd be a folly move to go chasing them down at this point.
So wait, we are or we're not?
Okay,
Just
we're gonna go after the people, right? The people that attack the goblins first to see what's going on there.
right.
Afterwards, me and you will track down the goblins with the trail they left behind. Sounds like they weren't trying to cover their tracks, so there's a good chance we'll be able to follow them back to wherever they're going.
All right. You think you can be the one who wakes up Kessex? I don't know if he's like Gallo anyways, but I'm not exactly looking to getting choked upon waking, so yeah. He just kind of fires weak finger guns at you in nervousness.
Grotus rolls his eyes. You want to know how to wake somebody up without getting attacked there, lad?
If that's teachable.
Grotus picks up a rock and just tosses his at freaking Kessic's leg.
And Gallo looks towards his way and just shakes his head.
Roll an attack roll. Just roll a strength check with proficiency.
Oh no! It's gonna be a pebble.
Yeah, if you have proficiency in athletics, it's the same.
It's gonna blow the fucking tent off.
Yeah, 23. You take it. Kessex, you're dreaming of whatever you wish.
Fall over because he was sitting up on a tree, like cross-legged, so it'll hit him and he will just fucking fall. And then probably roll a couple feet and then stand back up, sword drawn, just like.
I think that's just caused him to attack.
Good
and then
morning.
very calmly, just. And he will put the sword up in like that cool way that like a samurai master would do it.
He just turns to Kessex. We're looking over some survivors to attack the goblin. Get up and get ready.
I'm ready.
Gallo goes over to Julius and Moonstone tents while that's happening, not even bothering to look at the cool display that is a samurai sword. And he'll do instead, and he'll nod for Xavier to watch him, and instead just kind of ruffle the tent without getting inside.
You know, I'm awake. You guys ain't exactly quiet.
Oh, good to know.
Julie's still fast asleep.
And this one we can possibly kick.
You know,
And Gallo
I
will.
could just get a bag of bees at some point and just.
The bees don't care who goes first. They will attack all of us. And he will open the tent and take. He will stay on the side so he doesn't get kicked, but he's gonna start yanking on Julius's ankle a little bit.
5 more minutes.
No getting up now. There are bees.
I'm tired.
Alright, bees don't work. There are actually goblins, and we might have a lead. Get up.
I'd like a cup of tea.
I will slap your face in 2 seconds, Julius. Get up.
Xavier kneels by Julius and just kind of rapidly pats him. It's just like, come on, we gotta keep going. And because this happens, as he continues to pat, a fire lights next to your head.
Oh god, my head! Sits up.
He just kind of like looks at it, panics, and just closes his fist, causing the flames to peter back out.
Oh, less mercy than me.
Moonstone gets out of his tent and just is like, smells like burning hair.
Hey, I didn't touch his hair. I didn't touch it. I didn't.
Julius is like carefully patting the edges to make sure it didn't get burnt at all.
It did not.
Eh,
Oh, my God.
Grotus rolls his eyes. I should have saved the rock for Julius.
I agree. Also,
You know, my master had quite an interesting array of waking me up for the morning, but you lot take it to a whole new level.
He just continues to nervously scratch at his arm again.
Wait, what's this about a walk?
Nothing. Just come on, everybody.
You have the most armor. Get it out now.
He starts dressing himself.
Sure, it will
Grotus.
definitely take some time if all the armor wishes to be put on.
If we're going to be moving through the night, I would like to say that Kessex does his small ritual, mutters the words Nile Umbra Vincent, and lights his sword up in white radiant energy.
But wait, wasn't
That's cool.
Xavier and Grotus a second watch or third watch?
We were
I forgot.
second watch.
All right, so
Second.
we are in the night. Nice.
well, that's pretty cool.
Ooh.
Just because we're in a time crunch, Grotus will help frickin' Julius get his armor on so we can get the move
Sure.
on. I believe that
Okay,
does.
that's
This will
soon
take about 5
basically.
minutes, but if you guys are helping put your armor on, the longest it'll take will be 5 minutes.
Grotus will help him get his armor on so we can get the hell out of here because he knows how
Sure.
to put he knows armor.
You buckle
Honestly,
and strap.
I'm more used to this. Typically, I don't do it myself. Thank you.
Buckle and strap.
Oh, for the love of God.
So, what specifically are you looking for now? Are you looking to find the goblins or the pursuers of the goblins?
We're looking to find the pursuers of the goblins. So when Grotus gets the party together, I want Gallo to lead us towards the place where they saw the goblin. And then with Xavier's help, I want to try to lead, because they ran, so I'm assuming they don't have a very difficult trail. Lead the trail back to where they obviously were attacked by the pursuers.
Okay. For sure. For the sake of that, then, you come upon the tracks, you come upon the spot in which Gallo managed to find them. Within the Aliana Woods here, it is very thick and dense with trees, though none of them are very hard to walk around. It's not like blocking, but it is kind of like packed. For the sake of whoever wishes to check, I'll let 2 people make a survival check to attempt to find exactly the path that the goblins traveled. You do know the kind of direction they went, just due to the fact of what Gallo had seen and what Julius and Grotus had heard. Not Julius, sorry, Xavier and Grotus had heard.
And also, Gallo had specifically looked to see where, if they discussed it, where they would head next or where they were looking towards.
They just seem to be looking in the other direction, like they were just trying to get away.
Okay.
Chris, in addition to that, I know from my talks with the dwarf guy, the mine owner, that there's a monster in the woods as well. As we're walking, I'm not paying attention to the goblin tracks. I just would like to keep a sign out for that.
Sure thing. So for the sake of this, then, I will have, like I said, 2 people make a survival check to find the goblin trail, and if you're looking to do that, I will, Kessex, I will let you do that as a survival check.
Would anybody happen to have a... I almost want to... Oh my gosh. It hurts me so much when I realize this, but it bothers me that I can't just create a flame in my hand and just walk around. It hurts.
Grotus will take...
There's a
Kessex
for
is
that.
shedding light in 20-foot radius. So
Oh, okay.
Grotus will gather Xavier to give him an advantage survival check to find the goblin tracks back.
I mean, yeah, okay.
It's all the same.
Sure.
We're all at
And
advantage.
Gallo's gonna stay within
15.
eyesight, but he's gonna stay away from the light a bit.
Sure.
Just a bit.
It's kind of on the edge simply due to the fact of how dense the trees are, but you can stay about 30 feet away from it.
Okay.
Kessex, looking around with a 7, unfortunately. As you kind of look, descriptions of whatever this beast might be, or whatever this like main threat might be within these woods, have been scarce to almost nothing. Looking through, though, all you're seeing is goblin tracks.
okay,
Um,
that's fine. And I don't know if it's important, but I'd probably be at the back of the marching order.
Sure, we will cover marching order in a bit. Grotus, you kind of watch between kind of the spots where blood has unfortunately fallen, as well as the fact that they were in a hurried step not watching. you are able to find a trail that leads back the way they came, as well as a trail that seems to lead the way they still have gone.
And Grotus will point that out to the party. He's like, right here we have them trail back and the trail there. So if we follow the way they came from, we should hopefully see where their pursuers were. I'm assuming they probably attacked a campsite considering it's night. Part of the reason I wanted to get doing this now as opposed to the morning, so we don't miss them.
I'm alright with that. Yeah, just let's be on guard in case we're onto something nasty.
Aye, it's a good idea. He looks over at Gallo. Do you want to lead the way, Gallo, or should we travel as a group?
I can scout ahead to keep watch. Moonstone, help me out.
Yeah, no problem.
I mean, if we need someone to lead the way, I am more than willing.
You are blind. You are not going anywhere in the front.
Actually, we're not blind as long as we have Mr. Odd right there. Oh, Sir Odd.
That's whatever you wish to call me is fine.
Frankly, I ain't decided yet. Your name's really cool.
So I can go in the front then.
Well,
No.
we're going to scout ahead.
They're scouting ahead. You'll stay back with the rest of us.
Alright,
Yeah.
then I will stay ahead with the back.
Okay.
Sure,
Xavier
whatever
tilts
makes you
his head.
So, for the two of you that are leading from the front, are you attempting to do so stealthily, or are you simply just keeping an eye out, maybe 60 feet ahead of the party kind of thing?
I imagine we're probably going stealthily.
Okay, so then I need the two of you to make a stealth check.
15.
Okay.
That was sleight of hand, but yeah.
Oh,
Is
whoops.
Is your
It's
stealth
same
not the
thing.
same?
Yeah, same thing.
Another natural 20.
Fuck off.
Zaku.
Sure.
is just-
Whatever, fine. So, you all follow this trail, kind of keeping an eye for it. Barely on the edge of your visions, you can see Moonstone kind of walking a decent bit ahead, and you all just attempting to keep pace while allowing... Shut up. While allowing the other ones to keep an eye out first. For the sake of this, would the two of you also make perception checks as you are searching for the pursuit?
Alright.
2 more natural 20s.
Oh, yeah.
Of
So here's
course.
what's gonna happen. The moment we get into combat, all
Don't
downhill.
jinx me. Don't
All
jinx
downhill.
me.
No, you deserve it.
So, as you all proceed, you follow the path, maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes. Gallo, as you all proceed, there...
That's scary.
Oh my.
As you all proceed further, you do kind of easily follow the tracks that the goblins had made, especially after Grotus had pointed out what to watch for when tracking it. After about 15 minutes of walking, you kind of look deeper into the woods, and without any light, you can just... Gallo and Moonstone can just slightly hear what sounds like things moving through the brush at a very kind of like slow pace, ensuring kind of being very quiet themselves, but not as quiet as you were perceptive, unfortunately, with a 19 and a 24. Though, kind of as you all continue to move further and further, a little bit after you spot them, Gallo, they are still outside your range of dark vision, though you know kind of the direction and like where they are approximately, but you don't see them. And
Okay.
just slightly with that perception check, you kind of look, and you can barely see that kind of Gallo's position. It's good, but it's not perfect. And you start to hear what sounds like a bow being kind of tensed back.
Is it... so from the sound,
Mhm.
is this person either crouching or short? Is this person tall? Are they in the tree?
It's
And
very
is
difficult.
these movements... Okay,
You get a
and
sense
I'm not
on
able
the
to...
ground due to the fact they're still moving through the brush. Like I said, they are still outside your dark vision, thus past 90, like around 90 feet away from you. you can kind of tell they're there, but for discerning what they are, you can't tell. And you guess the same. They probably can't tell what you are either.
Okay.
So just kind of look out, just like, I think I heard something.
Sorry, what did you say?
Well, I think I heard something. As Moonstone just sort of prepares, you can see him messing with his arm a little bit.
Gala will scoot up a bit next to Moonstone and mutter to him. They're drawing their weapons. They don't know what we are, I think. We can either yell out now and put our hands up. Maybe they'll take us. Get ready to dodge.
Alright. Alright, in that case, Moonstone says, maybe they're friendly and don't know that we're not enemies.
Yes.
Here.
I can't tell what they are, though. They could also be goblins.
Well, one way to find out. And Moonstone will be ready to dodge, and he'll just shout out and say, "Oi! You friendly?"
There's kind of this moment of pause. But eventually you hear back and it's like, depends who's asking. You don't sound like goblins. Unless they got weird accents nowadays.
Alright, my accent's not that weird, but now we're not goblins.
I'm assuming you're the ones who had pursued them earlier.
She kind of, you hear the voice kind of just like slightly between some of the comrades around them, and you kind of see shortly there's this a torch kind of light up, and you see standing there what seem to be 4 individuals, each of which dressed in leather and dark colors, very reminiscent of the Red Horn mercenaries you had seen before, with a kind of woman at the front, half-elven, kind of sides of her head, clearly kind of slightly scarred and then like shaved, like they were, you get a sense the hair wouldn't grow perfectly there, and so she kind of shaved the sides. Fair of skin, but shows a decent bit of kind of scarring around certain places. And she's the one that has the arrow drawn back. You just see this large longbow kind of very clearly, you get a sense she spotted where Moonstone was, but didn't manage to fire. She rolled a 21 on her perception.
Shit. Gallo will come out from, I guess, his stealth,
Sure.
and his hands are open, open palmed, so he's not anywhere near his weapons.
Sure.
And as he looks over to her in the group, just like, "Good evening."
As kind of seeing you, and after the torch lights up, kind of clearly, with the light extending and thus dark vision kind of carrying further now, you do see like she like just lets the tension kind of go on the bow. She doesn't fire it. She's like, "No, we weren't the ones attacking the goblins. We were the ones attacked by them."
Well,
I'm guessing you
like
saw
a
them
penny.
then.
Yes, the rest of our party is on the way, but we were hoping to possibly pursue them. They don't attack anybody else. If you would like to help us, we don't know if there will be more of them.
There shouldn't be. We've already killed near 2 dozen.
Damn. Nice.
2 dozen.
Like I said, they raided our little fort back there, hoping to take it back after we stole it from them. But for the most part, it seems we've managed to drive off the forces.
Nice.
What left running that way seemed to be all that was left in these woods. The rest are probably on the other side of the road.
Alright. Question for you.
Ah,
You wouldn't have happened to see like a halfling traveling with a lizard folk, would you?
she kind of... I've seen halflings travel this road, but got to admit, never seen a lizard folk in my life.
Well, we are looking for our friends, and we have a
Yeah,
hunch that wherever these goblins are going, they could potentially be holding him. So, would you be willing to travel? And either way, you've already taken care of a few, and if you don't mind spending a little more of your night hunting down what could be predatory to people of the future.
Well, I hate to say it, friend, if you're looking for your friend, he's probably not in this part of the... We've been hunting goblins through here, a good portion of it. Haven't seen no friend of yours, but if goblins did get him, well, I don't think they've got any homes in this side of the woods anymore.
Alright,
Hmm.
so it means at least we narrowed down our search area.
Wait,
But be careful. Like I said, cross past the road. They should be on the other side of the wood. That's where the most part we've seen them coming out of. And as she is saying this, both times you guys have encountered goblins, aside from this time, they have been coming from that other side of the road.
So they don't have homes here,
They
but
did, and we killed them all.
Alright, so the other side then is all we need to worry about. Do you have a estimation of how many there still may be?
She kind of thinks for a moment. I've been doing a bit of reconnaissance around there. I'll probably say, and around this point, the rest of the party would be catching up. You would see the same kind of thing, a torchlight in the distance, and they kind of see your glowy sword light. Clearly seeing you're not goblins. A couple of them are like kind of keeping an eye on you, though the main girl doesn't seem to be. I think I've been doing a bit of reconnaissance. It's that part of the woods is definitely worse. They're a lot more entrenched in there. Probably say a bit more than 4 dozen.
For a
Also on all
dozen.
the same plot, same place at the whole road. They've got a couple small camps, one large camp, beasts of burden, that kind of thing. Well, goblin beasts of burden, which are just wolves.
Well, want to help us approach the woods?
Sorry, repeat that.
Also, do you want to help us purge the woods?
I got my duties here. I've got to be making sure these first ones are put down.
How
They
does
ain't got
what
nowhere
I'd-
to run, but... Well, actually, they got lots of places to run. But I'll find them. I just want to make sure we're thin the numbers what we can. Boss doesn't want us moving in on a main camp yet. No point in getting ourselves killed over it if we can corral them into one area.
Get this.
And your name?
Sula.
Tula. Pleasure to meet
Sula.
you.
There's an S in there, dear.
And he will wave over to the group, so then the others are less likely to be on guard with them. Just show that this is indeed the party that I had mentioned
Yeah,
earlier.
you get a sense they were watching, but their weapons weren't drawn or anything like that.
Greetings!
Greetings. You hear some of the others like greetings.
And how many are there?
There's 4 total. All of them dressed in leather, studded leather. Actually, looking to Tsula, she is wearing what looks to be a rather well-made breastplate that you can see kind of hidden under a leather garb.
These are the most well-dressed goblins I've ever encountered.
These aren't goblins.
Obviously.
Mighty observation there.
And Julia just kind of have like this
Stifles-
puzzled look to his face.
Xavier just stifles laughter.
Alright, well, I looked at everyone. I think our business here is wrapped up, but unless you got anything else, and I look back to the other guys. Unless you got anything else you can add.
No. You gotta... Thanks. If you're looking for your friend, like I said, I'd assume either dead or slaved by now by the goblins or other creatures that wander this wood. Be careful. We're close enough to the Ebonmore Mountains that a lot of those monstrous creatures can sometimes find their way down here. She kind of looks around. It is pretty dark, and it's like, they won't let you inside, but if you're wanting a safer place to rest, like I said, our fort's about hours way back there.
Gratis looks at the rest of the party. Oh, we still gotta finish up some rest. Might be easier if we do it there and take fresh in the morning then.
I ain't got no problem with that, but
Ain't gotta tell me twice. Oof.
Shall I mention your name, Miss Tula?
Would be small.
All right.
I'll
Thank
remember.
you. Sorry,
Also,
Julie.
did
So what we're saying?
No, do these people look injured at all?
Looking through, it seems one of them may have had a wound that they've since like applied first aid to. Nothing debilitating, just maybe got caught by a stray arrow of a goblin or the like. Other than that, while they seem a bit dirty, like they've been fighting, they don't look injured. You get a sense very much these are the people that were perhaps best fit right now to follow the goblins. If there's a fort, you imagine there's more of them that may have sustained different amounts of injuries.
Grotus actually turns
One-
to him. Oh, sorry.
One seems to have a arrow injury. You said.
Yeah, you can kind of see it's right before, like right above the hip. It seems like you can see where a hole is kind of punched in, and there's a bit of a blood stain. But it does seem like there is, like, first aid has been applied. The wound's not healed, but it's just he's healthy enough to keep going, so he's still going.
Excuse me. I hope. Do not mean to come across as rude, but would you perhaps like a bit of extra assistance with that? And he gestures to it.
The man gives a look to you, gruff, like, experienced human. You get a sense that there's, like, a bit of an insult with the, like, I've been doing this for 40 years, I don't need... but he kind of stifles that, and it's like, it's had first aid applied to it, sir. I don't, feel like I need much more.
Can't exactly be pleasant, though, right?
None of this work is pleasant, right?
I could perhaps ease it just a little bit, but if you'd rather not, that is alright. Julius just has a very pleasant smile on his face.
Roll a persuasion check.
Alright.
Can you say no to the puppy?
Can you?
22.
You
I
kinda-
can't say no to the puppy.
You see there's very much this, like, he doesn't want to, and then kind of like everyone else is like kind of looking towards him, and you hear Tsula kind of chime in, like, if you're too injured to keep going, the three of us are fine. No, I'm fine. Take help.
Oh, is that a yes?
Yes, it's a yes.
Wonderful. Alright. And Julius will walk on over and rest a pat of the hand to his shoulder and use 4 points of lay on hands.
Sure. You get a sense for the most part the wound is healed. Might be nothing really left, but it's definitely, not going to bother him nearly as much. He goes, thanks, Eater. Thank you. It's kind of quick to kind of like move away. You get a sense of just like peer pressure to get healing.
Julius just gives a cheery grin at the lot of them. It's no problem whatsoever. I'm happy to help. Alright, turns to the rest of the group. Shall we go?
One more moment here. You said you're all hunted down the goblins that just went away, right?
That's what we're looking for, aye.
Did you want any assistance with that? Do you think the four of you are okay? I mean, you don't know how many there might be there waiting for you if they have an ambush ready.
They know exactly how many. Actually, they've been hunting them in these part of the woods for quite a while. A few dozen. They already know most. More so, base camp is that direction, and they've done recon in the past. And looks to Tsula to confirm. Just a quick look.
For the most part, everyone. But like I said, these ones attacked us this time. I imagine if they held forces in reserve, it wouldn't have been smart to keep them from attacking the fort. I feel pretty confident we'll be fine. And if not, I'm still feeling pretty good for the night. Goblins ain't much after all.
Grotus kind of rubs his chin. If you feel like you're safe, I suppose I can't argue with you. Very well. You can take care of it yourself. We'll head back to your camp and tell them you sent us. Get
Of course,
ourselves a rest.
just make sure you're polite.
Grotus just kind of looks at him, just like, yeah, polite. Kind of turns to Xavier. You better do the talking.
I'm sorry. What?
Only the best of manners.
No, no. He just he looks like he was hyper fixated on something that's on the ground, and he just kind of looks over towards what is it, Tula?
Tsula.
Tula. He just kind of points towards a branch that's on the floor. And it's just, hey, that ain't none of yours, right?
All three of the red horns kind of like look to it. No?
He grabs it and starts walking away with it. Well,
Okay.
thank you. Have a good night.
They all just kind of like watch him with this slow turn as Xavier goes by. It's like, all right. Like I said, mention the names and you're fine. Just like I said, be polite. Some of them are bitter cuts.
Thanks, we appreciate it.
I'm sure they're lovely.
Yeah, sure. And, with that, you kind of watch the few of them kind of give you a nod. One of them douses the torch that they had lit just so for this conversation, and they start heading towards the direction which you came. So, that I imagine will follow the path that they told you to take.
Yeah, we'll head towards the fort.
All right. With that, it's an easy enough trail to follow. You were given directions. Who just left?
Michael.
Oh, Michael's having mic problems.
Oh, okay.
Michael's having.
Mike Froze. Is he doing a mic check? Uh-oh.
Help!
Can
Oh
you hear
no!
us?
Do you have push to talk on?
Probably it. I don't know. Did your
Oh, assume that's a yes.
microphone do anything? Like, did it
Yeah, is your mic a little loose? Because I can do it. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope, there we go.
Yay!
Hey!
There we go. So.
Damn it, because I made a joke and no one got to hear it.
And now
It was
the
a good
moment's
one,
been
too!
ruined, and now
Damn
it's
it!
gone. We're not
Ah!
repeating it. Get moving. So,
Chris doesn't want to hear it.
as you all proceed down the path, following the trail in which both the goblins and these rangers have taken, you eventually come across a very small clearing, maybe about 30 feet between the woodland clearing and what is this decently large wooden wall, going about maybe 10 feet high, clearly built to be a small fort within these woods. A small place of safety in a woods that are known to be kind of untamed, you could say. As you kind of approach, looking up, you can see, while there are no towers for the fort, there is kind of, you imagine like a walk area for behind the wall, and you kind of see a couple of them stop. One of them kind of like holds up a crossbow just at the ready, and it's like, "Who's there? Speak yourselves."
Friends.
Just
Got it.
associates, so to speak.
Sula sends us for refuge.
Ah,
Protectors.
that's the name I was supposed to say.
I don't remember her name.
Looking around the fort, by the way, you can see just past the wall there seems to be a decently well-kept 3-story building of primarily wood, which you imagine might act as a lot of housing for these red horns. Kind of looking around, it does seem that there has been a little bit of fighting recently. To the walls of it, you can see where there are a number of etchings where you imagine arrows have pierced, and some of them have still yet to be removed, as well as this kind of heavy scent of blood kind of in the area. Those of you with dark vision can look a bit off the ways of the fort and see what looks to be a number of folk that have now stopped what they were doing and looking towards you, but seem to be most likely collecting the corpses of goblins and kind of throwing them into a pile to most likely be burnt. You see them kind of stop. A few of them look a bit ragged, like, they maybe got stabbed or shot. They seem well enough, though, still able to work. The fort seems to be on, like, a decent enough alert. It's like, what did Sula send you? You just mucks in the wood?
Something like that. Thanks.
But, nah, it's because we got a little bit of, let's say, intel, so to speak. Some things concerning the goblins down towards the west or south.
Alright, If you got intel, give me a moment. He kind of turns. You just hear him go like, "Boss, we got folks here say the Sula sent them. They got something interesting."
Xavier immediately turns over to Grotus and is just like, all right, so exactly what was I supposed to tell them all again?
Grotus is rubbing the bridge of his nose.
Ella's doing the
Literally,
same.
we were just meant to
Moonstone is doing
spend
the same.
the night. But we
Yeah,
don't
what
have any. We don't
Yeah,
have
what-
any information for him, lad.
Make up lies as you can.
I'm sorry, I was just staring at the stick the entire time.
You're not
as
speaking for us again.
as you all
Well.
kind of wait, it takes a bit of time. You see the guard kind of like watching. He's a bit like impatient for it. He's not really listening to your conversation. Eventually, the more perceptive of you start to hear something. This kind of very heavy footstep of clearly a creature of decent size. And as he gets to, you see this one section of the wall where it seems to be that it is slightly raised, most likely acting as a gate, though it's kind of hard to distinguish at first. And you kind of watch it start to be pushed open, and looking to it, you see this probably 10-foot tall, massively furred, bull-like creature walking on two hind legs with a massive axe at its side, ordained in a similar breastplate to the one that you saw Tsula wearing. As he kind of walks closer to you, you see these two massive horns protruding from his head, pointed forward as if ready to gore an opponent. And you see, ordained upon one of the horns is this almost red leather band, kind of wrapped around it. The creature walks up to you. The more learned of you would know this as a minotaur. And as he looks, he says, "Boys say you got information. Boys also say Tsula sent you."
Yes and yes.
Xavier's just staring up at him in horror.
Julius is staring wide-eyed.
I believe
Grotus
our
is
friend
just
here made a
rolling his-
mistake in his words. Sula did send us. We only seek refuge here for the night. We sent
Yes.
her in the direction of some goblin.
Yes. Her band seems pretty well kept. We just wanted to make sure that you folks knew that and weren't worrying about them.
As far as
Word.
intel is concerned, our missions differ, and we have none to offer you. But we can offer rousing companionship.
Eyes kind of narrow towards you, Kessex.
Xavier's
Grotus
staring
eyes.
wide-eyed and open mouth agape, and currently the stick that he is carrying is currently on fire.
Grotus
You
walks
might-
to. Sorry, go ahead, Nikki.
Julius is also just staring very wide-eyed up at this creature. It just has this most delighted smile on his face, just like, "You, good sir, are a very large cow."
Oh no.
There it is.
There's a turn, and you just hear, "I'm a lady, actually, but thank
Oh.
you."
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course you are. I should have known.
To be fair, cow is the female version of cattle.
Yeah, I was like, wow, you got everything wrong. I was like, no, actually, you were
Well,
half
you
right.
said, "Sir."
You did say
Yeah.
"sir," which is the main thing, but you imagine the cow comment.
Against the bull. God.
Julius gives like a flourishing bow. She's like, "Of course, my lady. That is what I meant."
I want to point out that after Julius says that, Kessex is going to give his sleepy-eyed smile and just step to the back of the group again.
Grotus
Gallo
walks-
and
Yeah,
Sorry,
Grotus is
continue.
going to walk forward and go, excuse the Yumi, they're not exactly the smartest lot at times. Name's Grotus.
That's no way to talk about Moonstone.
Moonstone's
the
eyes
Minotaur-
just twitch.
The Minotaur kind of turns to you. "They call me Squash."
Nice to meet you, Squash. Anyways, we're just here looking for some help. We're missing our employer, a little halfling by the name of... I keep forgetting his goddamn name. Give me a second.
Hellman.
Yeah, Hellman.
Mayonnaise.
Hellman's mayonnaise.
Hellman's
mayonnaise.
Yeah, Hellman.
Hellman's
Hellman's
mayonnaise, that's a short human.
Yeah, Hellman. He was traveling with the lizard man, supposed to be making his way back to the town. Went missing. We were looking for him when we ran across the goblins that attacked your group.
Kind of, you watch these massive, like, three-fingered hand kind of raises up and just scratches the underside of Squash's massive jaw. And it's like, can't say I've seen many halflings these days. Mind you, don't imagine they'd live long out here. Either they're killed by goblins or mistaken for goblins.
Are you mistaken well,
You don't strike me
are you
as the
mistaken
lot to make a
a
mistake.
goblin or a halfling? Or halfling or
Sorry,
goblin, I
two
should say.
people talking. What were you saying?
Oh,
One of you go between.
yeah,
Michael
go,
and
Michael,
Dylan.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, well, did you mistake a halfling for a goblin?
She kind of thinks about it for a minute. No, I'm usually pretty up close. Can tell in the moments before you know. And she kind of hits the axe on the ground. The blade of the axe is about the size, like widthwise, of your chest.
That's a hefty axe.
Hefty arm to swing it.
Gratis looks at the axe. How good a quality is it?
Make an investigation.
How's that arm, though?
8.
It's a big furred cow arm. Looking to the axe, it's, you can't tell a lot because you are all going off of dark vision right now. But looking towards it, you get a sense that whatever kind of handle this axe has had, it has been replaced numerous times. The current one isn't of a very nice quality. The blade looks like it was at once probably pretty nice. Seems to be made of a decent quality steel, but there are a decent amount of chips along its blade. You imagine with this creature's weight, the amount of slicing with it doesn't really matter. It's still going to crush anything that it lands on. But it's certainly seen better days.
Gratis just looks at the axe, goes, you look like you could use a bit of upkeep on the axe there.
The kind of... You're gonna... No, I don't feel I do. I like it the way it is.
Gratis just kind of looks at it and gives a shrug. Fair enough, I suppose. I always figure treating your gear as right's the best way of keeping yourself alive, but each to their own.
She kind of stares you down for a moment. But to your halfling friend, no. Can't say I've seen jack shit of that. Haven't killed a lizard folk in some time either.
Well, just keep your eyes open if they come this way then, at least. They're not meant to be, they're harmless for the most part, not meaning to hurt anybody.
That'd be rare for a lizard folk, but sure.
He kind of looks at the Minotaur. Let's be honest, there's exceptions to all our great creed, right?
There's actually kind of like... Her mood's been shifting, especially as like you mentioned the weapon, like it kind of like went down, but as you kind of mentioned that, there's just this like, yeah, like this kind of a bit of a nod to the head, like, okay, I can... You're not wrong! She kind of looks back and is like, won't be letting you in the fort. Got to understand we're using this as a base rather not have issues, so to say, but you find a spot outside the walls that's not blood-soaked, imagine you'll find to stay there.
That's fair enough.
I'm
Okay.
good with that.
Okay, let's set up camp, get our rest. We gotta head off in the morning again.
Moonstone
That-
will set up his tent.
What was the Minotaur's name again?
You get a sense
Squash.
she goes by the name Squash.
Squash, that's right. As he looks over and goes, anyways, pleasure to meet you, Squash.
You as well. At least out of all of you. She kind of gives a wave. She just, I'll tell my boys not to bother you. She kind of enters back in through that large wooden gate. You kind of watch one of her meaty arms kind of reaches out and just kind of pulls it back shut. You kind of hear her footsteps as she most likely enters back into the keep. And yeah, seemingly vanishes.
What a lovely lady.
Alright, you gotta, like, stop insulting me.
What?
You insulted me again.
What did I say?
You insulted my intelligence.
It gives you a confused look. When did I do that?
I can't tell if you're being serious or not.
And just tell him he's actually trying to understand. Julius, you had mentioned his name during conversation.
Yes, Rhoda said you humans weren't the smartest, and then you said, that's not a nice thing to say about Moonstone, even though I am, and I gesture to myself, not human.
Oh no, he said your group.
I looked at Grotus. Which one did you say?
I said the humans in the group.
Oh, not hear that first part. That was a problem on my part. I apologize.
Well, Moonstone's problem is that he referred to all of us, and you pointed out him specific.
Oh yes, I thought she was being racist. But it is good to know that she wasn't.
I
Grodus
just
just
give you
run.
this confused,
I'll be right
kind of angry look.
Moonstone, never mind. Let's get some sleep. We got a long road ahead of us in the morning.
That we do.
At least on the plus side, next to this wall, I don't think we need to worry about watches at the moment. So let's all get a good night's rest and get going.
Sure. So,
We'll set up this camp begrudgingly.
you set up an easy camp. This little detour only took you guys about maybe half hour, 40 minutes, so you're still able to get a long rest through it.
Also,
Chris, I have a question real quick. They were
Yes.
They were piling up goblin bodies, right?
Yes.
Are they like searching and stripping them or anything, or?
You gotta... Do you have dark vision?
I do not, but I have a glowing sword right now.
Fair enough. For the sake of it, you wouldn't even need a perception check for it. You can kind of see, there seems to be a decent number of goblin bodies kind of littering the outside. And every once in a while, as you guys are setting up the tent, you do see kind of a few people will push open the gate, bringing more bodies from out inside. As seemingly the goblins threw a decent amount of force at this fort recently. They kind of step towards it. You get a sense they seem to be stripping the metal off them. Blades, that kind of thing. But they definitely don't seem to be like they're doing like a very like cavity search. Like they're not looking through pockets. They're not doing anything like that. They're just pulling like weapons and anything that could be like melted down and resold quickly.
Okay. Can I take a moment before we go back to sleep just to search a few of them?
Actually, could I join him in that effort if I see him doing that?
So, as a note, there are two men that seem to be like primarily like loading the bodies in there.
You said they're taking them into the fort or bringing them out?
Bringing them out. Like they're bringing them out to burn them. And they're still like piling them up, and there's still a couple like outside that they seem to be, like I said, they're taking off the weapons, they're taking off like metal that is clearly obvious, and then kind of throwing them in the pile. They've got a kind of like a small pile or a small wagon that they've started putting the weapons in that you imagine they'll probably bring inside or sell.
Okay. Well, if it looks like for the most part that they don't have anything on them, I would just like to get my whetstone wet with their blood so I can sharpen my sword.
Sure. Well, if you are wanting to look through bodies, like I said, it's just like the only issue with it is that the people loading up the bodies might judge you a bit.
No, they can judge me. I'll give them what I hope becomes the classic Keswick smile.
Trademark.
I will abandon my search because they are already taking the things I want.
Just through.
You get a sense you could pay them for it. They might sell it cheap.
I do not have that much money.
Fair. Sure. Like very much, you kind of younger man who seems to be, probably wasn't interested in the fight and is probably bottom of the totem pole kind of thing. Like that's why this is his job right now. Is doing it, and you kind of just like, oh, hello there, and you kind of start like pulling through the leathers of the goblins, and he doesn't say anything.
As he's watching me do it, Keswick's gonna say, he goes, I used to have shit duty as well back home. It was my job when they brought the monsters home, and I would use like a dagger to completely cut open their like pockets and stuff like that. And
I thought you were
just
gonna say their guts or something like that.
No. I'll just tell them the story about it. It was my job to debow the monster for all sorts of concoctions that the masters may have wanted to make. And as I searched through his pockets, and then just one, and then wet my whetstone with his blood.
Sure. He kind of gives like a curious look at that. Like it's honestly this like a bit of curiosity kind of spawns at that. Is it really? What the hell can you make out of blood like this?
Nothing, but it makes an excellent lubricant, and I will hold up the whetstone to show him.
Sure, he kind of looks to it with an odd look. He kind of, you see him like reach into one of his pockets and he pulls one out. He's like, "Oh, okay." Takes a moment, does the same thing with his.
There you go.
Work with all bloods, or just goblin blood?
I would be careful as to which blood you use, but some blood can be dangerous to fellas like us.
Oh, kind of looks okay. It's
But
me.
you really want to bond with that weapon of yours? You use your own blood. And Kesix will give him a thumbs up and show his currently bleeding thumb.
He's like, "Oh, I don't think I'll get it, but oh, okay, no, I'll actually." He kind of there's this. It's curiosity. He's but he kind of you get a sense some of it's going over his head.
Yeah, I mean, not paying much attention to it. Just like trying to be as casual as possible while doing this. I'm only talking to him so it's not weird.
Yeah, no, and you definitely you get a sense that he doesn't find it as weird. You can roll an investigation check to see what you find, like just poking through pockets.
Listening to this conversation, like, does anything he's saying make sense to me?
The thought of concoctions being made from parts of like monsters, yeah, that makes sense. The bonding with a weapon, you don't feel like that's got any sort of certification that you know of. Like, it's not true, but you also saw him drag, I think, like, you would have had to drag your thumb across it to light up the blade, right, Kessex? Or did you do something else?
No, yeah. I draw my thumb across it to light it up. Basically, when I draw the weapon.
Yeah. You get a sense that, like, at first thought of it, Moonstone, it seems to be just probably, like, a religious thing. People have done weirder things to say, you know, that they become one with their weapon or something like that. But you do see a clear kind of change in his weapon. You not sure if it's, like, based on, like, his faith or something else, or maybe it's his blood that there's something weird with it. It's not something you know of, but it's clearly, like, different. And as far as you can tell, true.
Hi, Kessex.
The Moonstone.
How you doing that?
How am I doing what?
That, and I gesture to the blade.
Oh, that's a trick that takes some time to learn. It's simple once you figure it out, but can be quite potent to the to those. Fuck, I don't know how to word that. It can be quite potent. It's
My bad.
simple. Just I've bonded with this weapon over years. This blade actually was forged with my own blood. When they made it in the forge, they tempered it through my chest, and and then I will show them a piece of my shirt where just like this giant scar through my shoulder.
Sure.
Ah! Is it your blood that makes it, like, do that?
It's a combination of the ritual and my blood, yes.
Tell me more about that, because that sounds interesting. Actually, do you mind? And Moonstone will, like, go to his toolbox and pull out a needle. Do you mind if I take a sample?
You can do what you want. And Kessex will roll up his sleeve and hold out his arm. And he goes, but it doesn't do anybody else much good. Not without the ritual.
Alright. Well, I still want to take a look.
That's right ahead.
And I will draw a small sample of blood.
As you take it and finish it, Kessex goes, that's rare. It comes from... it's rare. That blood is 1,000 years old, friend.
Do I believe that?
I think that's up to your choice.
What do you mean by 1,000? How old are you?
I'm only 21.
So how's 1,000?
Well, I mean, blood passes on from generation to generation, does it not?
Okay, I see what you mean. And I will drop the needle back into the... first put the cap on, then drop it back into the bag of holding. Or the toolbox of holding. Hell, have you ever heard of Silver Stamp?
No.
Roll an Arcana check.
I realized that my character might, like Dylan realized that my character might have.
Says no. Oh,
21.
doing
You
it.
kind of, it's not, you've never heard it referred to that. But as you kind of think of it for a moment, you do know of a kind of arcane ritual liquid bearing a silver-like color, and well, it's more like you'd more compare it to mercury. Sometimes it's called a world vein. But yeah, as you kind of think about it for a moment, they just like by the names and by the fact that it's a different culture, you get a sense that the what a world vein is might be just known as silver sapphire.
Not like that. Where I come from, we call it the world vein.
Oh, I've heard of that. Well, part of the process, it can be made artificially, and part of that process is taking blood of a sentient creature and mixing it with a little silver powder, and mixing it with basically aqueous silver solution. It's a little tricky, and you have to chill it at the right temperature, but from my understanding, depending on the blood, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, depending on the blood of the creature you used, it can sometimes have more potent effects or sometimes different effects. Your blood's really that unique. Might be worth experimenting with.
Yeah, well, I'd be very delighted to see how that turns out.
Well, stick around. Show you how it works out. Thanks, K6. Or Sir Odd. Or... Which do you prefer? Honestly, like, I know you say either or is fine. Which do you actually prefer, then?
I prefer whatever rolls off your tongue easier.
Fair enough. K6.
K6 it is.
Well. Yeah.
Not finding anything on the goblin, K6 will stand up. And...
You do find...
I do find something.
With a 13, yeah. With a 13, you find 17 copper pieces and 7 silver pieces.
So,
Damn, boy,
K6 will give a slight smile, and then I will give you half of that moonstone.
Oh, thanks. What's this for?
The company.
Oh, of course.
It's been a while since I've had a decent conversation.
Hell, you seem like a nice guy. So, it's not... Trust me when I say, I sometimes also long for a good conversation.
What'd you say, 17 and 7?
17 and 7, yeah.
Okay.
17, but...
I'll take 10 and 4. And
Sure.
then you can have the rest moonstone.
Alright, so 7 and 3.
Yep. Guys, I have 7 silver now.
Yay!
So proud.
Okay. Yeah, I will stand up and I will wipe my hands off on my robes. And then
Sure.
I will find a place on the wall, lean up against it, and wrap a blanket around me.
Good night, K6.
Good night, Moonstone.
Right now, everyone's like getting camp set, right?
Yes.
Okay. While that's happening, Julius had been spending some time praying, but once he finishes, he's actually gonna walk over to tap Xavier on the shoulder. Oh, excuse me, friend. Do you mind if I have just a moment of your time?
He kind of like... He was sitting away, seemingly kind of pushing at something in the dirt. But he kind of jumps a little bit at your tap before turning around. Sorry, what?
If you have the time, could I have just a moment to speak with you, if that's all right?
I mean, it's like 3 or 4 a.m., but sure.
He looks off, like, kind of taking note of how late it is, and then back at him, and it's like, another time could perhaps work better then, if you...
Oh, nah, I mean, if it's real quick, I don't mind.
Alright, you said Xavier was sitting?
Yeah.
Alright, Julius takes a seat as well, and kind of... He, like, rubs his chin thoughtfully for a second, and then kind of runs his hand through his hair. It's just like, could I ask your advice on something?
Sure. I ain't too keen on advice, but I could sure help.
Well, you and I are rather similar in a number of ways, and I've just noticed that you get along pretty charmingly with just about everyone here in the group. They don't have issues speaking with you, and you're easy to approach and speak with, and I believe I thought the same for myself, but he rubs the back of his neck and looks off to the side. I'm beginning to get the sense that my company is not much appreciated, and I was wondering if perhaps, well, how do you do it?
He kind of, at first he was smiling a little bit at some of the things that he was saying, but kind of at that last bit, he kind of slowly nods before kind of rubbing a bit at his arm. How do I do it? Well, see, when I was a boy, oftentimes I would accompany my mom, down over to the coastline. She sold some wares, so I got to learn a bit about how to be a little bit more approachable, how to talk to people. Of course, I only ever been exposed to like at least Dragonborn, and that's about it, and a few others, but I can't really pinpoint exactly how I have managed to get along with everybody. I mean, to be honest, I ain't ever picked up much other books than storybooks, and well, frankly, I'm surprised that Moonstone even wants to talk to me. I mean, he's so damn smart. But he kind of puts a hand on his chin and thinks about it before kind of raising a hand in the air, and he just kind of lets out a small puff of flame. I think it's like, and he'll begin to control the image of the flame to kind of create the image of two little stick figures holding hands. I think it's kind of like maybe they can sense my curiosity. I mean, Rhodas is the first half-orc or orcish kind that I've ever met or seen, really, and I suppose it just sort of happened. I mean, I ain't really ever assumed nothing about him. You never, well, completely. His face kind of did a weird contortion while he said that, but he never completely assumed nothing about me. But we just kind of came together. And I suppose it's kind of like the others. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how Gallo feels about me. He's kind of... I'm not trying to be offensive, but he's kind of like a snake.
I don't find that offensive. I think that's a good description.
Yeah, like, intense and a little scary. But, well, I suppose that kind of goes for a lot of our group. But, yeah, anyway. I've seen sort of the rep that you've built inside of the group, and I can't say that... I mean, I take it that the comments that you've made ain't ever really on purpose. Or, not on purpose, but, ill intent.
No, I've never had any ill intent towards anyone.
Well... Or, what?
Aegon kind of like ruffles a hand through his hair. I'm, well, outside of Mother, I'm more used to dealing with individuals who need help. These people, and he gestures to the group, they don't need my help. And I'm not used to that. I don't know how to approach that.
Well, we're co-workers, colleagues. Some might even say friends, and he kind of nudges him on the. We're kind of all here to support one another. I mean, even I don't know if you noticed, but inside of that battle, just a moment ago, just the day before or the night before, you did real good. Even though you weren't exactly looking at nothing, but you did a lot. If you weren't there, then somebody else would have to do the job, and we'd probably all be collectively a little bit more exhausted, amongst other things. I could be wrong, but, and this is quite literally a fisherman's tale, but you ain't here to help us. You're here to support us, if that makes sense. I'm here to support you. I'm here to support just about everybody else here.
Well,
And they're
it's not
here to
that
support.
it's not that that's the problem. The problem is that the things I personally oftentimes say things that make people upset. And I don't mean to, but I'm apparently doing it, and it's leaving a bad taste in people's mouths in regards to myself.
You know, you kind of don't take this the wrong way, but in a way, you kind of remind me of like a little kid. And he kind of lowers his hand down to about 3 feet off of the. Now, what I mean by that is that just about every single kid that I've ever been exposed to, including myself when I was younger, you oftentimes make assumptions because you only know one side of the world. And from what I understand, you ain't ever been anywhere else except for that city of yours, right?
Right.
So, the way I see it is that since you ain't really learned much else, you go into things expecting things to be exactly this way, but I mean, ain't you paid attention to them stories of ours? The world is vast, majestic. There's all sorts of things that I sure as hell ain't gonna understand, but maybe it's not always my place to, you know? For example, that squash lady. I ain't ever seen a person that had horns, and I ain't gonna say what I'm thinking because that's kind of rude, but or at least I think it is. But yeah, I ain't never seen somebody like that. But you know, they're a person too. Moonstone, sure, he looks like, and he kind of gestures, not saying it, but he ain't exactly one. He ain't one. He's his own person too. I mean, even, and he kind of flicks a little bit at his ears, the pointed edges along the lobe, outer lobe. I don't even really know what I am. I think I'm human. Makes no sense.
I don't think humans typically breathe fire, but I'm sure.
Hey, I didn't breathe fire, I threw fire.
You know what I meant.
Well, I mean, my case is just the magic. I mean, sure, it's a little painful, but eh. And he kind of just fizzles out the image before placing his hands on his lap. If I can give any sort of advice to you, it's just people are more than happy to learn, to teach somebody who's ready to learn. And you seem to have my kind of energy. You like to learn things. But if you make assumptions about everything that you see, sometimes that will come off to other people as you trying to be offensive, but you ain't, right?
Shakes his head no.
Then I'd say that next time you meet something or you find yourself in a situation that's maybe a little odd, you ain't ever seen it before, always give it that second look before you speak, you know? There's always something more than meets the eye, typically. I mean, And he kind of points off in the direction of Groda. Apparently, his kind is supposed to be aggressive and all sorts of mean, but he ain't really ever showed me much other. I mean, he can be a little angry at times, but he's a kind folk. That's a prime example. Or, well, I actually ain't ever met any no Tabaxi, so I can't really use Moonstone as an example, but he's incredibly smart. I ain't ever met any person, Tabaxi or not, that's like. There's always more to people than just what you see.
I think that's where the misunderstanding. He kind of like has a bit of a furrow to his brow. It seems that I'm sort of coming off that way to you as well. It seems, based off what you're saying. It is not that I assume that a person is terrible or cruel or monstrous or any of the sort, and kind of glances off towards where the goblins had been. I say things that come off wrong.
Let's take, for example, what you said to Grotus when you first met him. Help? Where'd you get that from?
Well, where I'm from, as I'm sure he had said, orcs and the like are typically seen as monstrous individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I figured in such a world where they're viewed in such a way, getting an actual career or job or something of the sort is highly unlikely, so I figured the most reasonable that he would be, seeing as how he was in that inn with the rest of us and not getting attacked by everyone, that he must have been help.
Now, this is where the understanding kind of comes from, right? You made that assumption based off of what you know, but you don't know everything. Therefore, you can't always be right. I could approach you, and maybe I know that all humans are capable of magic. And you made that assumption about somebody who's really insecure that they can't do magic. That'd probably piss them off real badly. These assumptions based off of what you know may not always be up to putt. You could be completely off of something. Think all fish can only swim? Nah. At least in Kelligan, during the fall, there's actually a few of those little fuckers that actually crawl into the ground. Everybody's a little different than what you may perceive them to be. That's what I mean. Nothing just meets the eye. Till then, just start treating them all as people. Indiscriminately.
Have I not been?
You have, but, I mean, you called Squash a cow. That could be offensive to them. Just because they may look the part doesn't mean that they act the part, or even are the part. Kind of motions towards Moonstone.
He kind of tilts his head at that and just... Well, I was sort of thinking it more along the lines of if you came across a human who perhaps looked like a hero in a storybook and saying that, hey, you look like this hero that I know. Just, that was the comparison I was thinking. I didn't really realize it was coming across insulting.
Yeah, but, hey, and he kind of gestures towards the sky, the night sky. And I always said the world's constantly changing. Everything's different, and not everything might meet exactly to how you are. You clearly seem to be curious like I am, and I'll say it once more again. As long as you approach something with no preconceived notions as to how they actually work, unless you absolutely have to, I mean, experiences are experiences, you may find yourself surprised with the results. Grotus ain't help. Moonstone's incredibly smart. I don't know too much about Gallows' history, but, you know, we're really elven kind either. But you get what I mean. And hey, if you ever find yourself confused about something, you could always tag me down. I might be able to help.
Well, you have proven to be rather smart at times, that's for sure.
Actually, I would say that at that, he kind of... A little bit of a blush kind of forms to his face, and he kind of scratches at his arm a little.
Well, Mama taught me a few things. Happy to share it around.
Alright. Kind of smacks his palms against his knees and then stands up, kind of looking off to the group and then back with a bit more of a less nervous look, falling into more of a cheery grin again. Thanks for all the talk, Xavier. I will try to take your advice into consideration and practice.
All right. Julius.
Hmm.
And he kind of places a hand on his shoulder.
I know that I can't quite help the others' perceptions about you, but you're a kind fella. A friend. Or at least I think we're becoming... Ah, shit, did I just assume?
You technically did, yes. But it
I
is
just
correct.
assume my friendship.
But I think in this case it's fair since I sort of declared that all of us were anyway, so it just means you've accepted my request.
Well, how it be? And he kind of gives him 2 more claps on the shoulder. Well, with that being said, pretty sure just 2 times inside of this conversation I nearly passed out on you, so...
Oh, yes, get some rest, please.
Right. Not Julius.
He gives us, like, very... Despite how much he has a very more... older type look to his face, he gives a very boyish grin and nods his head. Of course, good night. And turns and walks off with a bit more stride to his step now.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, the last
Just,
watch. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, just a quick note. Gullo was off doing something. He walked off without really saying much. So, but he'll come back.
Ew, Gallo's fucking a goblin.
That or spying on the Minotaur, one of the two.
He revisited that gruff man from the earlier camp.
Yeah.
Julius patched up some wounds and Gallo reopened them, if you know what I mean. I'll be back. I need to grab something.
Anyways,
So, Chris, I messaged you. But, yeah, continue.
Yeah. Okay.
Chris's voice made it sound like you actually are fucking goblin.
You don't discriminate if you're not.
I'm pretty sure that's still.
My bad. I'm not. Yeah. I was assuming the dead goblin.
No! Yo, that's gross. He has a little bit of standard, thank you.
For the sake of it, because they are on alert, just roll a stealth check for me.
What are you up to?
Nothing.
They were just attacked, so they are keeping a vigilant eye.
Okay, he is not making any... Actually, well, we'll see.
well, there we go.
Balance to the universe has been restored.
Oh.
We're getting kicked out of this place in 3, 2, 1, and...
I mean, you guys have inspiration.
You do. You
please.
can re-roll again there if you want.
Oh, that's right. Okay, 1 second, let me message you.
Okay.
Don't get us kicked out. We don't need to go. We don't need to make Forts the new inn. All right. We just don't.
Relax.
Can't.
We're technically we can't get kicked out. We weren't even allowed in yet. We're just camping outside the wall.
We will get kicked out.
I think Gallows is gonna get filled with arrows.
Good with something. How much is inspiration?
Inspiration is just you use up your inspiration and then you get to
To
re-roll
re-roll
a die.
a d20.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Any d20,
Okay.
be it yours and enemies and allies.
Cool. I will roll my own.
Sure. A 10, so you got a 16 total.
Okay.
Alright. So you kind of move your way around and do your activity. No one seems to catch you. You do notice as you are committing the act, there does seem to be a guard directly kind of above you, but doesn't seem to know. With that, there aren't any need for watches. There aren't any need for watches due to the fact that you are by the keep, but if you all want to take a last watch, you can, which would be Julius and... I don't remember.
Julius doesn't need help. Pshaw.
Sure. Julius can sit up there himself if he wants.
This is making it sound like I have to fucking... Am I following him? Is this happening now?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't...
It was
was,
Gallo and
Gallo
Julius.
and
Oh,
Julius.
Scalo?
yeah.
Okay. So, you could choose, but yeah, it's only if you guys want to do a watch or not. There's no danger, but you guys can still make perception checks and see... Fuck off! Come on with this shit, dude!
Yo, Chris just wants to get like just. We gotta stop doing this, man.
I hate
Y'all are
roll
just-
20. I have rolled
Nothing's even-
7. That is what I rolled to 9. Y'all are just
Gallo's just kind of half paying attention just because he knows that the place is pretty safe.
Yeah. Julius. Well, I feel like I gotta give something, right? Because it's a net 20.
Nora passes by, you can make a wish.
You see Gallo being a pervert.
Though it is rather sparse. During your watch, during the hours you kind of sit with or without Gallo, kind of with you, you do start to hear someone from within the fort humming a tune. This kind of very soft tune, and at one point, you swear you catch a few of the lyrics to it, in which he sings. You can tell it to be a male voice of decent age, where he sings, "Back up the stairs again. I am a different man. Broken mirror only shows his best cat." That's all the lyrics you're able to make out.
And it's on the other side of the wall.
Yes,
How high is this wall?
about 10 feet.
Okay, does it
You
sound
can
like
attempt.
it's does it sound like
Go
it's
ahead.
directly on the opposite side of where he's standing?
Practically, yes. You can tell it's in the open air, and you can tell it's close. That's why you're able to hear it.
Julius is going to brush his thumb along his magic ring to take out one of the roses,
Sure.
and he will attempt to give it a light toss over the wall.
Oh my
Sure.
god.
I don't know what to roll for
Watches
this.
with a corked brow.
Athletics, because it's a thrown weapon.
I guess,
Roll
yeah.
for seduction.
Athletics, you said?
Yeah, I'll say athletics.
Is it too late for me to use my channel divinity?
No, you can use it first if you like.
I will use it. I'm gonna use fearless athlete.
Okay.
So advantage on athletics.
Yeah, go for it. So you use the ring's property to summon a single rose. As you do, you got about a minute before it kind of vanishes.
It lasts an hour.
I said an hour before? Sure. You toss it over the wall. It's kind of hard because a flower doesn't fall easily. But as you kind of toss it over, you do kind of hear the humming stop for a moment. Kind of. Oh.
When he does, he gives a light clap.
You kind of give a slight clap. You hear kind of in this Smooth voice, just, I don't know who you are, but I appreciate the applause. He seemingly continues whatever he was doing and follows out still humming this song.
Julius continues the rest of his watch with a big grin on his face.
Yeah, I'll say with that, you get the second verse to this. Running in shoes that shine, with blood that isn't mine, a stinging trophy of the battles I've survived.
Could you message me those two parts that you'd heard?
Yep.
Thank you.
What is this guard, Ed Sheeran?
Oh yeah, sorry. So I'll just copy them into a private message. But
Gallo, meanwhile, like he's not next to Julius. He's a little ways away, but he's still watching him and just kind of tilts his head and pipes up. Just what was that for?
Oh, did you not hear them?
No.
There's someone on the other side of the wall singing a rather nice tune.
Was it good?
Yes, I rather liked it. Sort of wish I had a flute on me, I would have played along.
I thought he will stare at him and blink. And he looks like he's going to say something, but turns his head looking forward instead with a small... Hello?
Did you say something to me?
What did you say?
Oh, did you not hear?
No.
Sorry, I was typing something.
Ah,
You said
heck.
something to me.
Oh, no, to Julius, he mentions his flute and stuff. He opens his mouth and he looks like he's going to say something, but, I guess his brow slightly froze, just a bit if you're paying attention, and then he'll, turn forward instead. Again, with...
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, and I'll say, since Gallo had seemed kind of curious as to what exactly he had been hearing, Julius just starts humming the tune that he had heard.
Sure.
He won't say anything, but notice that he doesn't turn his head the other way often, as he keeps an ear out to listen. And how good is Julius?
How what?
How good is his singing?
Oh, he is proficient in performance, so he's a good singer.
Ah, shit. Okay. Yeah, his brow raises a bit, a little in surprise, and then considering his background, he gives a small shrug and a nod to himself in approval. And that he'll give a little golf clap.
I kind of gets a chuckle from him. You know, funny enough, my father was never really one for the music or the arts really at all, but my mother always sung to me.
Neither was mine.
It's a shame though. Music is wonderful.
He again stares off and he doesn't respond right away. And he leans his head back onto the wall as he eventually just kind of continues to, you know, yeah, he eventually sits down onto the wall and leans his head back. Yeah, I suppose it's a way to pass time.
Gallo.
Hmm.
I'm not going to apologize for having a different way of looking at things, but I do want to apologize for my behavior before when I was upset with you.
He turns his head and looks at him, making eye contact again with a raised brow. Why would you apologize for that?
Because while I might believe a certain way, and I do stand firmly on that belief, I also understand that under those particular circumstances that you probably ruled that as the best course of action. And I need to be understanding of that, so I apologize.
His eyes don't really dart, but they look in which way in that for a bit as he's processing his words. His arms are crossed, and his legs are out in front of him that are also crossed on one another. I accept your apology, I suppose. Though I understand you're still learning things, so I never really held it against you in the first place.
A twitch comes to his brow at that.
And I don't mean for that to sound insulting, but, well, correct me if I'm wrong. How long have you been adventuring?
A good long while, but not that that matters. I'm still learning. I'm not a child. I'm not gullible or naive. Sure, there are things that I do not know, of course, just as there are things that many others do not know that I do know, but I'm not naive. I've very much been noticing a number of individuals in the party seem to believe that I have zero understanding of anything, which is not the case. I view things differently, and to that way of viewing short might come off as naive, but I'm not an idiot.
I suppose this has been on my mind, and I'll clarify and apologize for my own behavior then. I am not used to working with people like you, nor much with anyone else in this group. I'm used to working with...
He gives you a confused look. People like me? Oh, wait, devilishly handsome?
He rolls his eyes. Well, technically. And you hear the slightest lilt to his voice, just, technically I've worked with people like that before, but that's beside the point. When I work with anyone, usually they have my mindset. They are objective. They are a bit more versed in their craft. I'm not saying that you aren't. You have still made impact regardless, but a little more. He pauses, trying to think of the right wording to put this in, and he's squinting a bit. Tougher exterior, I suppose. Less emotions on the sleeve. Straightforward. Take, I suppose, Grotus is a good example of that. His personality type. And if I'm not working with people like him, then I usually work alone. So it's an adjustment. And I understand that I am not the most amicable when I am in my off state. So if I've come off as aggressive, I apologize. As I've mentioned before, I don't want tension between coworkers. It doesn't help anybody in the long run.
Julius shakes his head at that. I've not seen you as aggressive. Far from it, actually. You've been rather kind.
Furrows his brows at that, a little confused.
Well, for starters, when everyone starts speaking in whatever language that is that they're speaking, I'm the only one here that doesn't know what they're saying, but you always go out of your way to make sure I understand what's happening in the conversation, and when the others believe that information should be kept from me, you go out of your way to keep me up to touch with what's going on and what's happening, and you don't have to. So, that's very kind of you.
Well, it's true. I did see you as naive, but I'll keep that in mind not to. But you aren't dumb. And you're still an adult like everyone else here. And while we're all together, again, it makes no sense to make such trivial, but childish, honestly, actions as such. So
Julius kind of purses his lips a bit at that, brows furrowing a bit more as he kind of gives you an odd look. Do you always do that?
do what?
Make excuses for why you do nice things.
Again, his brow furrows. A little bit more confused, just... I'm not making excuses. This is how I see it.
Well, whenever you do something of some sort that could be interpreted in such a way, you typically give some sort of matter-of-fact response as to why you did it, rather than just letting them say whatever they wish to say. Meaning, typically, I mean, when people do that, when they feel the need to correct others, it's because they don't want something to be seen a certain way.
I just find it most logical. If I'm supposed to take this as a compliment, then I suppose a thank you would suffice.
He kind of, drawing one knee up, rests his elbow on the knee and then his chin on his palm as he kind of looks at you and then kind of looks off towards this, a bit of an amused kind of quirk to his lips, just like, You know, I was sort of thinking that I was the only one here that was bad with people. It's kind of nice to know that's not the case.
He rolls his eyes again, just like, you can only be good with people for so long before you have to turn it off.
I disagree.
I suppose you have better tolerance of people than I do.
Well, hopefully at some day you might be able to be willing to pick up that tolerance again. It's a good feeling, you know, just being openly nice to people.
You assumed I've had tolerance to begin with, and he gives a small smirk at that.
That is fair. That is very fair. You see, just kind of like press his lips together kind of tightly at that, and kind of just like narrows his eyes off to the side for a moment. He kind of just mumbles to himself, "Assumptions. You're doing the assumption again. Come on, you got this." Kind of smacks both his face, sides of his face.
He hears a little bit of that and doesn't really quite get it, but he'll look at him again and he'll think for a moment and say, "So, you don't see me as aggressive. Have others? I've been warned of it, so I'm slowly going to make my rounds just to be sure I haven't been stepping on anybody's toes."
You're far from aggressive. You're typically rather calm.
Alright.
Alright.
I think Chris is gone, guys, if that's what you're waiting for.
Yeah, he's, he looks like he wants to say more things, but, instead he keeps quiet and, again, turns his face back forward. Welcome back. And I think that'll be the end of the watch.
Yee.
With that, the watch comes to an end. The sun starts to rise, and you get a bit of a better look at the battlefield around, so to say. The corpse pile has gotten quite a bit larger. Counting out, you guess probably 3 dozen or so of these goblinoid creatures, as well as a few wolves seem to be skinned for the most part, and corpses thrown into the pile. It seems like they're just getting ready, the last preparations before setting it ablaze, in order to not attract more animals than needed, so to say. The fort is very much still active. Still, people could be spotted amongst the walls. Some kind of watching down on you at times to time, but the day is now yours.
Hey, Chris, do you want me to roll for my potion?
Yep.
While we're doing morning things, Kessex will also do his prayer and activate his sword.
Sure.
And, question.
Yes.
When did they do the, bonfire?
They haven't yet.
No.
Okay.
That's all the point.
In that case, rip! In that case, then, Gala will get up, and he is going to walk towards Xavier.
His legs are sticking out.
He sighs, because this happens every night, and he'll...
Burn mark in the grass next to his foot.
Oh my god. He'll take note of that, and tilt his head a bit, and then he'll lightly just kind of kick his... one of...
He doesn't move.
Kicks it just a little bit harder. Xavier.
What?
See, and that's how you wake up people without getting hurt.
All right.
But no, there's something I think you should know.
What?
And he has him sit up, and then he points towards the pile of goblins will be set ablaze. You have a tick, don't you? It's an observation. But I figured if this is something you need to take care of for the day, they're doing it soon.
Well, I don't know about a tick, but I could handle this if you want.
I'll ask them first, make sure they're done doing that. Stacking the bodies, but yeah.
He'll cross his arms and his fingers tap against his bicep, not in an impatient way, just a ways of thinking. It's not what I want. It's something that I've noticed, and if I've come off aggressively in finding out what that was, I apologize.
At first, Xavier kind of was avoiding eye contact with him, but he kind of looks back at him with a bit of a quirked eye. Yeah. No hard feelings.
Meanwhile, while everybody's up, Grotus gathers the supplies and looks at everybody, goes, "Everybody, let's get ready to get moving. We still gotta find our bloody employer."
Agreed. And as he's saying that, Moonstone actually has a flask up to his bracer, and you can just hear like liquid pouring into it. And once he's done, once that stops, he puts something back on the cap, shakes it, and throws it to Kessex.
What is this? And Kessex will squint his eyes at it and hold it up to the light.
Just drink that before we get into a scrap. It'll help keep you safe.
Okay. What is that, like a bonus action or an action, or?
It's a bonus action to drink a potion yourself if you have it on hand.
Okay.
Yeah. For your information, it gives you a +1 bonus to your AC for 10 minutes.
Like, I don't want to sound happy, but that's something I could really use.
I figured as much.
You can do a gross witch cackle on your own time.
Where do you wish to go?
Well,
We're heading to the other side of the road, aren't we?
Yeah, if we
Sure
follow the
thing.
tracks, we might be able to cut those goblins off on the horses and take out the numbers before
You
we
did not bring
get
your
to
horses.
Yeah.
We ain't gonna take
Plus the Red Horns were headed that way, I believe. They
Yes.
said if our quarry was to be found, it would most likely be on the other side of the road.
Right. I say we get the horses first and then get to the end of the road.
I don't know about the horses.
Can the horses travel through the jungle? Or
It's
not
not-
the jungle, the woods.
It's not the easiest for them due to their size. Like you imagine, even for like squash, it'd probably be kind of difficult just because of how dense the trees are.
If
It's
that's
not
the case, we
impossible,
bring the
though.
horses and see if they'd be cool keeping them at the fort, so we're not just having our horses lying around.
Well, you got them at the tavern. You got them at the miners or Shack's
No,
restaurant.
remember we took them out so we could get we took 3 of them with us so we could go.
Yeah, we
Oh.
took horses with us into the forest for fast movement purposes.
I did not remember that. Okay.
We had one person with dark vision on each of them.
Yeah.
So they could leave.
It's not like I said. It won't be like a hindrance to your movement, but in some spots, it's definitely not going to be a bonus either.
Okay, well, if they're not a hindrance, then we'll take them, because honestly,
Yeah.
if we have someone injured, then horses are useful.
They are.
So we took 3 horses for more than just travel, because if we're looking for someone who may or may not be injured or dead, it's nice to have a horse to carry their corpse / bleeding body back with us.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm all about that, man. I didn't know we had him with us. I thought we were going to have to go all the way back to town to get him.
You got a toolbox of holding. Just if you find Elvin's corpse, just shove it in there.
We can
Uh,
stuff the horses
we
into
can
the
do that.
toolbox of holding, and
We
then when we
cannot.
need them, we
They
pull them
might
back.
be a bit heavy. Toolbox of holding can only hold 500 pounds.
Yeah, we got limits here, folks. Don't assume I am the pack mule.
You can
Okay,
hide
guys.
one of your party members in it, so long as they can hold their breath for a while.
Yet in
I
any
feel
case, we gather the horses and we make our way to
Yes,
where we were suggested to
certainly.
go look, so we
For
can
sure.
see if we can pick up tracks of any sort.
They were pretty broad when they said it, simply saying the other side of the road. Following the northern trail, you'll eventually find your way to the road that was mentioned.
Hey guys,
It, of course, is the one that you guys traveled before.
could we actually take a 15? Just so I can make my dinner.
Well, we're going to be ending about
20, 30 minutes, yeah.
Okay, I'll just switch to. I will
Sorry,
just-
yeah, it's
No, you're good. You're good. I'll just switch to mobile for a little bit.
okay. So, as you all kind of proceed further to the other side of the road, you're simply going to be looking for tracks of any kind you can find towards finding them.
Yeah, we're gonna see if we can kind of basically do a survival to see if we can pick up any track or trail of where they might be or any sort of
For sure.
movement so we could have
Yeah, I guess at this point we're looking for almost anything, aren't we? Some
Basically.
sort of. Yeah.
I'll let 2 people roll a survival check then.
that would be us again.
I like how we already have.
18.
That's not great.
So, Grotus, luckily for you, a reasonably large amount of goblins went to a fort to try to retake it. So finding a path isn't the hardest. While you do find it, you see where it seems like a number of these creatures like walked through their woods into the other side of the road. Following it for some time, you do start to notice some of the tracks start to split off. Primarily, you notice that it seems that there were 3 groups in total that kind of came together for this. To the left and the right, you do see 2 paths that seem to hold maybe 6 pairs of footprints at most. And then following the center path is a very large amount. When you're trampled down, you imagine this is where the bulk of the forces came from, though there might be smaller camps going to the left and to the right.
Grotus turns to the party as he does his whole wild man tracking. Apparently there was a large forces. 2 smaller groups came from the left and right to join up here. So we got a choice to make. Do we go looking down the smaller pass, or do we go out there to the big one to see what was going on there?
Do any of them hold signs of the halfling?
That's a little harder to tell.
Not if you were a ranger.
That is fair.
Looking to it, the tracks you find, unfortunately, are the ones that they made while going towards the fort.
Yeah.
You don't see any sign. You see signs of clear, like, creatures that walked with them, which you can assume to be the wolf carcasses you saw at the fort. But other than that, nothing really. You could go looking for more tracks if you'd like to see if you can try to find Hellmans. But that would be an amount of time based on your survival roll, even if you're able to find anything.
So it seems like in a moment like this, our best bet would be to guess.
I see that on the small. Just
Sorry, you're breaking up, Chris. Or Michael.
I will say, Moonsun's.
That connection, though.
Yeah, we
Oof.
can't hear you.
Fine. God.
Aw, he censored himself.
You did too, yeah.
Terrible.
Better.
In any case, Grotus
Nope.
will say too, he looks over and goes, if I'm taking a bet, I think the larger groups are better bet to go checking.
Well, I think protect.
Still can't hear a word you're saying, Michael.
Ah!
Well, we heard that.
Anyway, if I talk loud, it should go through.
Yeah, you do.
Moonstone is
Yeah.
saying he'd like to check the smaller groups so they can't surprise us later.
There we go.
Ah!
There's a point to that, but at the same time, Checking the smaller groups may waste time that we don't have to waste. Besides, probably the smaller groups were all in the entire group with the road, as my guess. Chances are they put all their members there. The larger group probably still has people left.
I would like to take Grotus's side on this one. I believe larger group would be our best bet.
I also take it as the smaller groups tend to be what seems to be the scouts and gatherers of supply. They're the small grunts. The most important ones we need to worry about is the troublesome ones up ahead.
I'm just worried about people not getting...
Ambushed.
Well, remember, we're pressed on time, so either we find our halfling dead or alive. In this case, he may be dead by the point we find him. But do you want to spend your entire day raiding all of these camps when the Red Horn are already doing that for us?
Especially up.
Larger group it seems then, so Grotus, if you don't mind leading the way.
Hey, I'll take it. Julius, you got an opinion on all this?
Well, I think that the direction that the majority of the group is going with is the way to go.
Fair enough. In any case, okay, we're agreed then. We'll go for the larger group.
Speaking of opinions, it looks over to Resident Cowboy, who has not been talking, as Gallo is always generally watching the group, and
He kind of looks up at you and then the rest of the party, and he's just... group says that we're trying to go to the big area.
Grotus looks over at Xavier and goes, Lad, are you okay, lad? You seem a little quieter than normal.
His face there's like a small contortion at that, but he puts on a bit of a smile and he's just, yeah, I'm fine. So personally, I'm not entirely too sure about that bigger area. Like, sure, that's going to be the main area, and we might find more leads from it, but the entire thing is that we're kind of going into uncharted territory to begin with. We might actually get more boon from it if we were to get in the thicket of it all.
Cronus looks at you kind of cocked-eyed and goes, sorry, I didn't follow that. What are you saying?
Right. Local speech. What I'm trying to say is that the deeper we are actually inside of... We're going into the forest, right?
You're in the forest.
We're
We are
already
in the forest. Okay, but we're taking a... Chances are the smaller route kind of will bring us closer towards the... What I can assume to be is like the center of the forest. I'm essentially just saying like... Oh, here, I'll just say it in this voice. What I'm trying to say is that with the smaller route, we might actually be able to get a little bit more in the center of the forest, so we'll have more to work with entirely, rather than just staying on a main path. If Hellman disappeared, we're going to want to go to areas where we probably wouldn't look. It's very rare. It's very rare that when people get lost, they end up going towards the big routes. They usually end up driving way off course.
Grotus,
I don't believe the concern is that he was lost. I believe the concern is that he may have been taken or killed.
Well, if he
Either
was
way.
taken, same.
Exactly.
And he kind of raises a hand towards Gallo.
Grotus looks at... We're not talking about taking a route. We're talking about scouting out the big goblin horde.
Yeah,
Actually,
That's...
it's not a road. It's a trail that Grotus found.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna side with Curtis, like, this side.
He kind of hears this, and for a moment, his eyes twinkle of an emotion. But he just kind of returns his hands to his pockets, and he just nods. yeah, let's let's get a move on then.
Wait, I'm
Brothers,
sorry.
just
Can I
travel-
be can I be caught up a little bit? What are the two options here that we're considering?
We're worried about whether we're tracking down two of the smaller groups of goblins that met up here. There was 3 groups. A larger one, you said to the north, and it was
Yeah.
right and left, yeah. A large one to the north,
West, and east, yeah, essentially.
and 2 smaller ones to the west and the east. We're figuring out where the most likely corporate way to go is to find our employer.
And your suggestion was the larger group, was it?
Aye, they're the most likely if he is captured or even has his body there. They're the most likely ones to have him.
And Xavier, what was your
Well, no, they're right. You know, if we're traveling with everybody, then sure, even if we run onto something on the main trail, we should have everybody alongside with us if we're gonna flank. And there ain't.
I'm curious what yours was though. I didn't hear it.
Oh. He kind of looks up at you and is like a little bit surprised. Well, kind of reframing what I said, since it's the Goblin Horde that we're worrying about. I was thinking that maybe with the smaller trail, we could probably get a little bit of a flank, have a little bit more control over our area rather than playing right into their hands. But I guess their entire force is.
Grotus looks. I think I see what the problem here is, lad. They're separate tribes. They're in opposite directions. If we go their way, we can't get to the other tribe.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was. Yeah.
He's saying that we take a more sneaky route rather than going directly in at them.
I mean, there's fairness to that as well, but he kind of looks at himself and then looks at Julius in our heavy armor.
Of course it wouldn't be us. I assume that we're speaking more, letting the scouts go ahead to sneak and then see what things look like. Yes? It kind of gives a questioning glance at you, Xavier.
There's a little glint in his eye, but he just nods wordless.
Well, I mean, we usually send Gallo up ahead to scout, but honestly, we'll have to follow the main track mostly anyways to keep on trail.
Well, we ain't ever had too much problems traversing these parts, huh? He kind of weakly bumps.
Okay,
You two are all rather talented at that.
He turns to Gallo. What do you think, Gallo? Do you want to scout out ahead then like normal while we come up behind?
And he's been listening to all the conversing thus far and has had his index finger knuckle just kind of rubbing on his chin, scruff a bit. As I see it thus far, I think we could do a bit of both, in which I can scout up the... If we lightly split, and I say lightly as in we're still within considerable feet of being able to find each other. 100 yards. You lot can continue on the main road slowly, as I and whoever else want to scout up ahead.
That's 600 feet.
I will come back, however, with information on a route that could be taken that is off the main road, so we have a little more advantage to us rather than going straight up to their front door.
Xavier kind of raises a hand shyly, before kind of lowering it back down. But
looks at him.
I don't know about you, but I've been watching, or at least the little I could see from these goblins. In a way, they kind of fight similarly to wolves, I find, and
what I'm getting to though is that if we ain't all on the same route, you might get singled out. I mean, of course, we're sending you to scout ahead anyway, but it would probably be better if we all stayed on one route rather. So I don't think that we should do something like that. I think
Well,
it's kind of an all-inner thing.
it's not that
Go
I'm.
with
Yeah, it's not that me and I suppose Moonstone would be splitting. It's still scouting. We come back. It's more so to continue moving. The main group moves forward. We scout. We come back. And when we find that path that can still lead to our main destination, then we all move in that direction. The main concern here is that we lose our track in the first place because the current one we have is the one we know.
Sure, we won't. I mean, I don't think we will. We've been pretty handy in the wild for a bit, so.
In that case, then, that shouldn't stop us from getting off this main path in the first place to the main camp.
That's what I was saying.
I just want to clear something up for meta purposes. When we're talking path, are we talking path or like tracks? Because there's
We're
tracks.
talking the tracks that you found that only you can see.
I guess I'm getting very confused. Like, we're not following a road. We're not following a like open area.
I'm
we're just
lost right
following
now.
like broken
Okay.
twigs and and
Okay,
branches.
so-
There's no road. It's just like it's just what they pushed through to get here because there was a large group of them.
Okay, so our trail is not a physical trail. They are just clues. So that's what we're
it's
following
clues.
currently.
I'm following a clues of like broken branches and like disturbed dirt and uptorn tuner like a tracker does. It's not like there's a road
Okay.
they followed. We're literally still in the middle of the wild. It just
So
this
we're
is where they
technically-
came from.
So we're technically already taking a sort of path that others wouldn't be able to follow anyways.
Pretty much.
We're just
yeah.
following their
It's not like there's a
tracks,
road
and-
for them to ambush. We're just moving through it where they came from.
Okay, because the whole point of this discussion is that we want to have the most advantage on being able to ambush them first. So as long as we know where we're going, then eventually we can take a stop and then make a move. Essentially.
Yeah, and like I say, from a meta point of view, because just because I'm saying it for the sake of easiness of description too. The other thing is the way you track in a wild is it's great to go off track, but since we're not following a road, Grotus has to stay on the trail because if he loses it, we're lost. Right? Like that's how
Okay.
tracking works. Is you have to stay on the trail. It's not like I can go 20 feet off and come back to it because if I do, I might not be able to pick it up again.
You see,
Okay.
in my head, I kind of imagine something like a game trail. So no, I get what you mean now.
Yeah, no, it is literally I am just tracking through broken brush and like the torn up area that they made obvious footprints, right? It's not
Okay.
a trail, it's a footprint trail they made moving through, but if we leave it, there's a chance I can't find it again.
So
Yeah.
do you guys
Okay.
just want to say we followed the trail?
Yeah. In
Well-
that case, since this has seemed like since this is more player communication than characters, since like they would be able to see that there's no trail, but we didn't see that. So with this confrontation being all essentially
It's still
Yeah.
kind of about whether we're like taking advantage of people's skill sets, though.
Yeah, the skill sets
Okay.
still matter. Gallo going ahead
Oh,
makes
yeah.
sense. You still stay inside of Grotus. He'll kind of point you in the direction the trail is going. So we have to stay with an eye each other, but you stay. You go ahead for scouting purposes, with or without Moonstone. Your call.
okay.
Then I have to ask a question. Then why do you think maybe, if you could have a speculation, why did they break off?
Didn't break off, they joined up.
They joined up. Oh, so okay. So I'm thinking like drawing a Y that we're facing towards the break, not the middle.
Yeah, it
Okay.
basically
Yeah.
on the map it looks like this.
Also note
And
that Sula did
they're
say
moving in. Sorry, and they're moving in this
Oh, yeah.
direction, right? So
Yes.
they moved into together, not away from each other. So we're
Oh.
following it backwards to the big group up north here. But these are two smaller
Oh.
tribes that met up with them, is what happened. Right?
Then,
I thought it
like,
went the opposite way. Whoops.
then reversing most of the previous conversation when Gallo, when Gallo kind of looked over towards him, he was kind of mutely scratching his arm when he kind of looks up over at everybody, and he's just, well, it's what the group thinks. Think the main road might give us the most benefit.
Okay. I think we're agreed then. We'll head off that direction.
Yep.
Wait, did we
Okay.
erase the conversation? Or I'm confused.
Because it shouldn't have happened to begin with.
Yeah, we all had very different ideas of what the path looked like to begin with. Like, I thought they were splitting up from each other, because Sula said that they didn't live next to each other. Turns out they're all converging into one.
We'll keep the conversation the same and say Grodish's shitty fucking charisma failed to explain it properly. He explained it properly.
Alright.
Okay.
And so we'll just look at Gallus and like, am I going with you?
I'd say so, if you want to. More eyes. Just in case I miss something. But don't stay too close to me, so then if one of us gets caught, the other has the advantage to help out. And we stay in line of Grodus' sight, so we know essentially where to go.
Alright.
Okay. So, if two of you are attempting to scout ahead, it's going to be, once again, stealth and perception checks.
Chris, can you roll that
Natural
for me?
20s.
Let me know what I got.
I
Perception's
cannot
off,
hear
though.
you over other people talking, but say again, Michael.
Can you roll that for me? What
Yes, I
got?
can.
Roll,
As
For
Gallo
your
bumps
stealth-
into a tree. Oh god!
Oh no!
You rolled,
Moonstone, you have a 6.
you rolled double natty ones. I don't know if you want to use your inspiration on that stealth or not.
I mean,
yeah! What a gallows cat. What a gallows cat.
A 19.
Got 19.
Gallo got a 19, but you did get a 1.
I will, may I use my inspiration, sir?
You can. I will subtract it from your sheet and reroll. Not a ton better.
How much?
You got a 9 this time. So you went from a 6 to a 9.
Out
I
of
wonder.
curiosity, the breastplate, I mean, the, disadvantage, worse.
Pardon?
I have disadvantage on stealth checks.
Yeah, I'm aware. You got a 9.
No, I'm wondering, did the disadvantage make it worse? Like, did it have it?
No, the first roll was
No.
a 3.
Okay.
You can still roll your roll his perception, though. Maybe at least he can see.
Yeah, because Gallo rolled a 6.
11. Yeah, don't give your sheets to me, folks. This is a clear lesson.
Yep. I will
So.
next time just run upstairs, abandon my dinner.
So, as you all kind of move, Moonstone, he's usually a quiet guy, but this time the armor is kind of getting caught on a couple things. This dense of wood can be difficult to move through. With an 11, though, actually, hold on.
I apologize.
Yeah. So, as you all kind of proceed further and further, eventually with the 11, about maybe 100 feet away, after you travel for maybe half an hour to an hour, you look forward and can see just the very basis of an outline of a camp. You can hear in the distance what sounds running water. Looking through, you imagine a river of some kind might run through here, and from what you can see, there are a number of huts in a deforested area. No walls around, though clear kind of spots where a bit of light can be let into the... You don't, with those checks, you don't unfortunately realize any creatures within the camp, but kind of looking towards it, you do see what looks to be a sizable camp, which you assume to be goblins. Looking through, you see probably around 24 of these small little huts of sorts. You can see a smoke kind of plume rising up, clearly showing that whoever is here is still...
Cut off after the word still.
Still active.
Still active.
And looking forward. Yeah, not immediately do you notice anything coming up on you all.
Right.
What?
Gallo will look to Moonstone and just give him a little psst, and he will nod back to the group.
Grotus sees you and kind of signals that he sees. Are you giving him like a come up gesture or stay there gesture?
A stay there gesture. He was looking to Moonstone and essentially telling him to, like, let's go back to the group and tell them what we see.
Sure. You're easily able to do that.
Make Grotus
Right.
tells them. We all stop and wait for you then.
Alright, Goblin camp ahead. We don't see signs of life yet, but, well, a little bit. 24 camp tents, a running fire, smoke. So, large numbers. We have to be cautious about that.
All we're trying to ascertain is some sort of sign of a halfling being present, correct?
We're hoping to see if he's there. Yeah, him and his wizard folk.
So it may be best just for Gallo to have a look around and us be within, helping distance in case something goes wrong.
Grotus turns to Gallo. It's a risk on your part, lad.
We all come.
I don't mind it as long as you're watching my back from a distance. You give
no
me a
walls.
Yeah, there's no walls for me to really sneak behind except for the foliage around. I
There is
can.
a foliage around, and like I said, there are high-standing tents that you could hide behind.
Okay, so there's high-standing tents. This camp is within a clearing. How far away is this clearing from the tree line that they're in right now? What's the perimeter?
Probably, you'd guess maybe 30 feet. Seems
Okay.
to make use of what space they have, but being as they're goblins, they probably don't have the tools to clear out more forest.
All right, in that case, then he'll say, after looking around the area, I can start off with checking the perimeter, and you all could do as well. And if I don't see anything, then you will notice me heading towards the tents, if anything, looking towards any of the... Are there, like, body piles of, like, a bunch of, things that they've caught, their meats and such?
Nothing that you saw with a 6 or an 11.
Okay. Yeah, so he'll continue with that.
Before you go, though, Grotus is going to say one thing. Just tap you. He goes, we might be overthinking this, too. You said it looks like... How many homes did you say there were?
Probably about 2 dozen.
2 dozen.
So,
But half of them were killed in a battle recently, were they not?
Exactly what I was about to point out. There's a good chance it's all that's left is a skeleton crew after their slaughter at the fort. Honestly, there might be nothing there but the women and children, and despite how much I don't care for goblins, I don't exactly want to go slaughtering them when they're helpless like that in this case.
well, it's like Kessex has said. We have one objective. We're not here to pillage. So, I can take a look again, and if there's nothing, there's nothing. I run off and meet you back.
There's
Why don't we
one
try
other option. Sorry, Moon, so you were saying
Two people were talking, huh?
I was just saying, why don't we...
You're cutting out, man. You gotta
Bye.
speak normal.
I think you said distraction, was it?
Yeah, hold on.
Give me 1 second.
No, well, I'll give you a sec. Grotus will say what he was gonna say, though. There
Go.
is a less pleasant option we could go for, I suppose. In my side.
Which is...
Alright, got it.
There are goblins, and my ilk, or at least the other half of my blood, it's not exactly strange for my kind to go up and see goblins.
Well, what I was gonna suggest doing, why don't we create a distraction to give Gallo a good chance to get in and look around? Like, what? And I look over at Xavier. I'm just like, you like starting a fire?
Grotus is gonna look. I'm not exactly a fan of starting a forest fire.
Forest fire.
I have a way to perhaps sort of gather attention if need be.
As I was saying, if we're looking for a distraction, I can be the distraction, possibly. I'm orc. Or at least half orc. They might be willing to at least try to speak with me and not attack me right out. I can draw their attention while Gallo looks around.
Now, hold on a minute. Weren't they saying that they were kind of... I mean, the previous ones, I could have sworn that they were talking about being hungry or something.
Aye.
They might not exactly be too diplomatic.
That's fair, but I'm not playing it diplomatic, I'm playing it like an orc. In other words, they might be hungry, but they might be looking for someone big and strong to help them hunt. It's not uncommon for orc goblins to join orc hordes.
Is it common for orcs to be alone in the wilderness?
Yeah, there's a few of them.
It is with all the hunters hunting their lot around.
I mean, you could actually just go hunting for deer with whoever, and that'd be some sort of distraction, but I'm curious, Julius, what is this distraction you're talking about?
Oh, well, I was going to say, depending on which time of day we're going to decide to do this, I could gather quite a bit of attention with a guiding bolt.
But that's in the same area of a forest fire.
Yeah, shooting up towards the sky.
It is just light.
Yeah, but it might be seen as an aggressive act, which means they might get, like, people out there.
Exactly, they'll probably charge wherever the light came from, coming right for us, so unless we're planning to ambush them.
This could also bring attention to the Red Horn if they do see your lights. It could be a distress signal, and we end up...
Wrong idea. Honestly, I think the best bet is for me to go in and try to see if I can talk to the goblins. Or at least see if they're willing to speak with me.
I believe so. While Gallo has a look around as well.
Hey, Gallo can sneak in.
I'll stay within a decent reach of you as you approach as well. Staying hidden, of course.
Yes, all I ask is keep your eyes on me at all times, if possible. Don't lose track of me. Keep watch of my back, because these are larger numbers than I'm used to.
If I might raise one question. Brotus, no offense with this question, of course, none, but how charming are you capable of being?
Not very, but on the other hand, I can be very, very intimidating. For
as
an orc,
charming as,
that works.
yeah, as charming as an orc needs to be.
I mean more in the sense of coming off convincing.
To be fair, if anything, he just kind of has to snarl at him.
The thing is, I might be able to work my way into trying to take over the tribe kind of sort of thing. It's happened again,
That'd be impressive.
The only concern then... Oh, sorry, Moonstone.
Well, we're going with this plan of you going in causing a distraction. You should have some backup in case things go south.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I expect you all to be watching my back, because if things go wrong, I might have to run away. Not exactly my style, but if I'm outnumbered too badly, I'm not going to be able to survive.
From what I'm understanding, though, about all this and the plan is that, Julius and I are just going to be sitting in the back. But
Julius and you are the backup.
Yeah, but I don't know how far we can actually get without causing no ulterior distraction.
Stay in the tree line. That's the best bit. About 60 feet from me. Keep me in view.
Well, no, you might want to stay in the tree line exactly. It looks like, for for me, anyways, and it looks like for you as well, our distance with running is about the same. It's going to take me a sprint, really, to get to my position as quickly as possible.
Julius looks down at his armor and then up at the trees.
Hence why I wanted Julius further back.
Well, the worst comes to way, I definitely can get up to you pretty quickly.
Well,
Right.
I can actually do the same. A spell.
Well, in either case, I'll go in first. I'll distract them, call them forward. I'll get the group out towards me while you gotta look around. If things go right, I'll be able to distract them long enough for you to figure out what's going on. If they attack me, then we'll force the fight. If I can bluff my way out of it by intimidation, then we got a chance here to make things work out proper. As I said,
Really,
me being a half-orc, it's our best bet with this.
Julius looks to Xavier and kind of gives like a well, what can you do kind of shrug. It's just like, I guess we're in the back then.
Can I gauge, like, the goblins of this area based on what I know about them from my earlier checks? Would they respect a half-orc coming up and trying to be the boss?
Do you think they'd respect anything with enough force?
Fair enough.
That's one thing Grotus has.
Actually,
They're hungry goblins. If something provides food, that's
And-
all they'd care about.
Speaking of which, Grotus is gonna just check his ration pack, look into it. Yeah, might work as well for bribery. In any case, this is our best move to go forward.
I agree. Like I said, I'll be about 30 feet behind you, hiding as best I can.
Gallo will look to Xavier and Julius and tilt his head. So I've seen you both do ranged attacks before. Is there anything else you're able to do? As far as backup goes, if he needs to run. You said a guiding bolt is not possible right now. Or is it?
I'm capable of doing a guiding bolt, yes.
Yeah,
Right.
I do have a nifty spell if you are getting chased of how to slow someone's down.
Xavier's eyes are hiding behind the line of his hat, but he just kind of shrugs a little bit and just says, "Just fine."
Just fire. Okay. In any case,
Either way.
Wait,
I can create a grease ball behind you, so that way when they come running after you, I can make them slip.
that
well, we
sounds
sort
fair.
of. I'd like to speak up real quick. We have all of us sort of been sharing our opinions on the matter. We haven't exactly gotten everyone's opinions on the matter, though. Kind of pats a hand to your shoulder, Xavier. What are your thoughts on this?
Xavier kind of looks up with a tree, kind of revealing his eyes, which there's a slight, almost irritable furrow to his eyebrows, and he just kind of, again, shrugs and is just, seems to be the best plan of option. Just try not to get killed, I guess.
But you seem like you have a different thought.
If you have a better plan, then bring it up.
Always good to get everyone's ideas.
Xavier just kind of sighs, more like blows out a sigh, takes off his hat, and pushes back his hair and puts the hat back on, and just, I don't have a better plan. I have an alternative.
Alright, what is it?
Hey, I gotta get going. I'll see you guys later.
Oh,
Okay.
see you.
All right. I've got a minute left. So,
Okay.
on that note, we'll end this session for today, and hopefully have a plan by next session. Can carry it out. I am sorry, but yeah, I do have to get going like right away.
No, you're
Would it-
good.
Dude,
Okay.
have a
Would
good
Would it be-
one.
Would it be
easier for us
possible to just, if we just finish our planning, because we're not going to make a move anyways, so, yeah, cool.
Yeah, we'll finish the
Bye.
plan and then tell you what it is so you can prep your maps and stuff for you there, Chris.
I got them all prepped a long while ago.
Sweet.
Don't worry. See
Okay.
ya.
Bye.
See you, buddy.
Bye!
So anyways,
So we still talking?
yeah, we're still talking.
Yeah.
So Could you guys, just out of character, remind me of like what the current plan is and exactly why because we're trying to get through the goblin camp? Or are we trying to kill them? What's happening?
Okay, so
We're
the
Because I
plan
did miss
is
a lot because I kept.
because drawing helps. So let's say this is the goblin camp and this is the woods around it. Right. The plan is for Gallo to come in from the opposite side of Grotus. Grotus is going to walk in and try to more or less become warlord of the goblins by saying, fuck you, listen to me, or at least try to sell it off so the goblins all pay attention to him while he sneaks in behind and sees if he can find what we're looking for. If he finds what we're looking for, he can break them out and get us out while Grotus is being a distraction.
Now, unfortunately, I missed so much fucking information while I was out. I kept on having to dip back and forth because Mom. But,
fair enough. So that's the plan.
What are we going? What are we looking for?
So we're looking for Hellman and the Lizard Man in there.
Any
So
sign of them. We're
any
trying
sign
to
of
avoid a fight if possible. We just need to know if there was a halfling here.
Yeah, we're trying to find out any information. If there's no halfling, then we're gonna have Gallows leave the camp, signal me, which I will know where he is. We'll work out a signal, and then I can break away if necessary, or if necessary, just like, I don't know, rule the goblins. I don't know how the fuck this is gonna end up.
Yeah, basically, like they said, least amount of violence as possible. Get in, get out, find our information. Nothing, we leave.
Yeah, we're not being paid to exterminate the goblins, so there's no reason to pick a fight we don't need to. On the other hand, you guys will be in the tree lines wherever you want.
Ready
to support back up. To support me in case things go wrong for me. Chances are Gallo should be okay if I'm being a distraction.
Well, he asked for at least one
Yeah, I
person
think Moonstone,
to watch out for.
Who's got the best stealth past you?
I think I do. I think
Okay.
Keswick does.
I think Kessex and Gallo were talking about this already, right? So
So Kessex will go with you, and I'll take the other three for my backup in the tree line. They can be further back, because, again, my character, meta purposes, if I get my my armor up, I take half damage, so I should be able to survive even a full round of getting smacked.
Yeah.
Right? Even if all the goblins attack me.
I think I have the same stealth modifier as Moonstone, I just don't have disadvantage.
Yeah, exactly. So you would be better for the stealth. So you two go for the stealth. I will take care of the goblins as distraction.
Yeah, and the reason why Gallo asked if they both have ranged attacks, so at least since they have a ways to run towards Grotus if they need to, is that at least they can start off with helping him get away faster with whether it be a guiding bolt or a small fire thing, just to get him to be like, wah, and then he run.
Well, luckily, because I'm a guy of intimidation, I have a lot of ways to hopefully draw them in and make them listen to me, short of the fact that I have advantage in all intimidation checks due to my runestone. I can light up my blue muscles to make me stronger, and as a desperate act, I can grow to be 13 feet tall to really make them listen. So that's why I'm like, as long as I go in intimidating and not tricking, and just like, you're gonna fucking follow me, I am fucking now big boss, orc boss. You fucking follow me, we got a shot of this working.
Fun. Then kind of going back to what Xavier was kind of saying, he just kind of, it's fine. It just sounds like a real nice plan. He kind of tilts his head back down for a bit of second before he just kind of looks back up, and it's just, so the idea is that Julius and I are going to provide backup for Grotus in case something goes wrong.
Aye, if something goes wrong, I'm going to need you two to back me up. Hopefully, nothing goes wrong, but obviously, no plan survives contact.
He slowly nods, his eyes still concealed by the rim of his hat.
Grotus is just going to walk up and place a hand on your shoulder. Xavier, honestly, is there something wrong here? You've been a little weird this day.
He kind of scratches a little bit at his arm again. And For a moment, he doesn't look up at you, but he like slowly does. What? Well, we're trying to do a mission. I don't want to bring nothing not necessary right now.
He kind of looks at you. Lad, if there's something bothering you, then it's necessary. You gotta have
Honestly,
a-
anything that you have to say is necessary.
Y'all think I'm stupid?
What? When did I
Y'all
say
think I'm
that?
stupid?
No.
Y'all
Why?
may not have said it. It's just
And he kind of raises a hand, and the little sparks of flame from his hand just kind of form into the crude form of a fort.
back there. It's I don't know. It's when I started talking, I was a little distracted, a little sleepy, amongst other things, and I don't know. Started speaking. Grotus had given me the responsibility of trying to talk to him, and well, I kind of panicked, and I don't know. It's just the collective size kind of got to me.
Grotus just kind of. So that's what's bothering you, lad.
I know it shouldn't. It's just I thought
Grotus.
I'd do better.
Grotus just kind of sighs. My fault, lad. I probably shouldn't have put you in the spot there.
Well,
Honestly.
no. It's I can do it. It's just I was a little bit off my game, and it was.
And he takes off his hat, and you can see that his face is very much flushed.
It was just real embarrassing.
Listen, none of us are perfect, and we all have our moments, and we all don't. I fell out of a fucking tree during battle. Shit
You did?
happens.
Wait, was
I
that the
did.
thud I heard?
That was the thud that you heard. And he rolls his eyes in exasperation, more so that like he doesn't want to admit it, but he's saying so anyways. And he looks back at him after rolling his eyes, just like, look, for the most part, you got most of the information out. It was one blunder. It wasn't the worst. And honestly, that'll happen again with all of us at some point.
Do you mind if I perhaps chime in a bit?
Hmm.
I know
Looks over to you.
I know I briefly mentioned this to you, Gallo, but with Grotus here, I think that is good. And Kessex, I'm still attempting to get to know you. You have yet to really do any of this, but he turns his attention to Gallo, Grotus, and Moonstone, who's quiet off to the side, and it's just like, you all do have a habit of treating us like we're idiots. And yes, of course, I make mistakes, and yes, of course, Xavier makes mistakes, but we're not stupid. We're adults like the rest of you. We think things over like the rest of you. Sure, we might not be as knowledgeable in certain areas, but we're not idiots.
Grotus just kind of lets out a sigh. You know what? I'll apologize. I'll own up to that. Not
As well as I did last night.
The fact is, I'm not good with people. Most people just bother me on principle, to be honest. But, Ver, you're not idiots. Don't really think of you as idiots. For the
Honestly, if you gave Xavier the chance, I think you'd see he's probably one of the most intelligent people here. And that's really saying something. I've met a lot of intelligent people.
Xavier he kind of, upon hearing that, his eyebrow quirks just a little bit, and he just kind of,
Well, shucks. Thanks, Julius.
still very much staring at the floor.
He has a bright smile at that, but nods. It's just like, and I'm not just saying that to flatter or anything. I genuinely mean that. So, which is why I think you, rather than brushing the things that we think or say off, sort of try to give us a chance and take it into consideration.
Grotus kind of looks and kind of nods his head. Fair enough. I'm trying to listen. Honestly, and he's going to look over at you two. I'm trying to also take everybody's, and he's kind of grunts the words, feelings into account here. To be honest, if I was being more, and he kind of like grunts at Ed, brutal, I can think of a couple other plans that would be easier and less risky for my own personal ability in this case. And Gallows as well, for that matter. But I don't feel like possibly slaughtering a village full of children and women.
I would not let you.
That's fair. Hence why I said I'm not trying. I'm trying to take everyone into account here.
And as I've mentioned to Julius at night, and I had meant to eventually to you, Xavier, I apologize for also seeing you as naive. That is what I thought, but as you said, you're both adults. You both have your own ways of thinking, and you have your strengths that the rest of us don't. You do contribute. And if there's anything that I can say personally, from experience, and his eyes go a little distant for a second as he explained this, you can't be heard unless you say something. So, you have people here willing to listen to you. And like Rotus, I'm also not fond of people, but take advantage of the ones who are willing to listen, because there's a lot of people out there who won't.
I know I've only known y'all for just a little under a week at this point. But he kind of strokes back his hair, which a lot of you would probably notice almost passively moves, even though there really isn't actual wind around. But he slicks back his hair and puts his hat back on. I didn't want to let none of y'all down. I know I'm not. I mean, and he kind of pokes off to Moonstone, who fortunately is not here with us. Right? This one's received quite literally the most formal education that I could have ever fucking heard of, and a lot of you all are very intelligent individuals. And well, I'm a small town of like 50 people. I don't think it's unfair to say that I might be naive, amongst other things, but I really am trying to contribute as much as y'all are. You know, I saw the way that Grotus kind of looked at you and kind of gestures over to you, towards you, Gallo. I saw the way that he kind of gestured towards you after the entire mission that we had to carry out earlier, and you all move damn well, real efficient. It's just, yeah, I didn't want to let anybody down.
Grotus kind of taps you on the shoulder, goes, "You're gonna make mistakes, lad. Hell, you want to talk about being embarrassed? I did get trapped by my own bear trap when those goblins attacked."
He kind of, his eyebrow kind of quirks just a little bit at that, and it's just, are you okay?
He kind of just holds up to the scarred arm. I'll live.
He just like sees this like these teeth, these teeth marks in his fucking. Like, how are you? What?
Kasich takes a moment and interrupts Shell, and he goes, "Y'all all do so well. It's quite refreshing to see a group talk things out for once. And as far as failure goes with any of you, failure to listen, failure to communicate, and failure to complete your own skills, it's just remember, fucking up's the first step to being sort of good at something.
Exactly, we're all a bunch of failures. Rests his hands at his hips.
I mean,
Gala smirks at that and snorts a bit.
look how much I've fucked up, and then I just kind of gesture to me. Missing ear, missing tooth, bloody or broken nose, black eye, bloodied clothing. It's just fucking up's part of being alive. Nobody should ever feel bad or be made to feel bad about it.
As I've said, just be happy with a group who is much more willing to take even small blunders as something that is a learning experience. Because again, there are people out there who will take none of it. So I'd say this group is rather good.
Thank y'all. Really. And kind of looks around. I didn't want to bring nothing up about this time. I know that we're on a mission, so I'm sorry about that. But
if we're speaking... Oh, sorry, continue.
Thanks for caring.
It's alright, Xavier. And Grotus kind of, looks a little shy and kind of scratches the back of his... It's what friends are for. Early saw of red.
You just... for a moment, he kind of looks a little bit surprised, but slowly, a very toothy grin just slowly appears on his face. You can actually see, with this smile being much bigger in comparison, there's actually, in the distant side of his mouth, there's actually a molar missing. And, he just... man! And he just kind of gives you a nice slap on the shoulder. Alright. And he just kind of gets up off where he was just kind of crouching down and claps his hands together. So, and kind of looks over around everybody. Alright, here. This is the way I kind of see it. I do think that this entire plan does work out pretty well. The only thing that I'm not entirely keen on, of course, is kind of sacrificing you in this case. With the impression that maybe it does go wrong. Very well, it could go completely right. But he kind of scratches a little bit at the back of his head. Do you think that there might be a way to get their attention, but in a way that maybe we could draw them away? Like, far away, If you just show up and declare that you're fucking king of the place, sure, there might be a little resistance, or maybe they'll all just go to it, but where the hell are you going to take them from then on? Just farther away? What's the plan after that?
I was thinking I'd lead them on a hunt.
Immediately?
A hunt for a halfling, am I right?
Or a giant lizard folk if they're looking for it.
Right. This could, if they do end up following, this could work quite well to our advantage. The worst case scenario is one I believe most everybody in this group is capable of handling. Unless I'm mistaken and joined up with a bunch of people who do not know how to fight.
Grotus looks over at you. Well, I did nail you with that rock pretty good earlier.
I can take a hit. Something I'm quite good at.
Don't worry, newcomer. I'm the greatest fighter in this group, you'll see.
Yeah, that's why you have to wear all the armor.
Yes, actually.
Whoa.
If we're talking about lacking armor, he just gestures to himself.
And from what I've noticed, you're a bit of a firebug. And, from my journeys, those types don't tend to wear armor.
Well, yeah. Number one, that'd be kind of dumb. It's kind of why I keep most of what I'm wearing short. But other than that,
In any
I don't
case,
know. The joke didn't land.
in any case, Xavier, I know you do the fire, but is there anything more specific you can tell us for this little moment? Might be useful. Do you do big fires, or is it just that little pew pew we've seen so far?
Well, I can turn up the heat if that's what you're asking. Of course, I have to be a little bit more careful, dense forest and whatnot. But I
Well,
don't know if I try real hard, I might be able to create something a bit new.
here's the thing. I'm thinking of a backup if you're that worried about me, friend. If you think it's that bad and you think it's going to be in the case where I'm in a bad problem, we can use Moonstone's suggestion earlier. A fire makes a good distraction. If you think that things are going bad, light one of the little huts on fire. I'm sure that'll distract them long enough for me to get away.
Ain't that gonna mean that I have to get kind of up close and whatnot?
Well, how
even
far
have to
can you
sneak
throw your
into their
fire?
camp.
The clearing's 30 feet again. And
Oh,
I feel
sorry.
like that's a detail you keep forgetting.
Yeah, the clearing
Yeah.
is 30 feet away, so basically when you guys are in the clearing, it's 30 feet, then it's the village.
No, it wasn't something that he was forgetting. It was just like he kind of like started snapping his fingers just like a little bit with like the little sparks, and is like, "Oh right, you meant from a distance." Okay,
Yeah,
And,
from a distance.
and he just like, I got decent distance on this, roughly 3-4 times farther. I should be able to do it.
Well, that should be great.
All
In
right.
any case, anybody else got any other concerns before I try to make myself king of the goblins?
So you're going to lead them onto a hunt to find our target in the first place, or you're just going to take them on an actual hunt for me?
I believe that's best case scenario.
Yeah, best case scenario, and somehow I actually end up being the leader of these goblins, and they listen to everything I say, and I don't expect that to happen, mind you. I'll lead them on a hunt. Probably off doing my tracking and find food for them. That gives Gallo lots of time to figure out what they're doing.
Alright then. I have no complaints.
Plus, if the goblins aren't violent or they are just women and children, they've listed, our concerns have been listed, we can just ask them if they've seen a lizard folk or a halfling and then be on our way.
It's true. We don't have to. They could even be diplomatic, possibly, about this. As I said, the reason I'm going in is because, again, half-orc goblin. There's a connection there.
Racist.
He just turns and looks at the little...
No, I did not fucking do that. I'm trying something different with this character. Kessex is quiet.
Racist. Yeah, no, as I said, they're more likely to listen to me than anybody else here. The only problem is I don't actually speak goblin, so they don't speak orc or common. This could be more complicated than we think.
Well, like you said, speaking grunts and food.
That's fair.
Do you want any keywords? Because I do speak goblin.
You know what? That's actually a good idea.
Alright.
Learn the word food.
Hey, Grotus.
Yes.
Do any of y'all speak Goblin by chance, other than you, Gallo?
He looks over at Kessex. Kessex, do you speak Goblin?
I mainly learned more ancient languages, but sorry.
Fair enough.
Right. Well, I was thinking, in the event that you were to take Gallo with you, this is just completely off the field, but he could act as sort of a translator. I don't know if...
Then we don't have anybody to search the camp.
Well, if clearance is kind of granted by the others and we end up going to the camp anyways, then somebody else could do it.
It's not a bad
I-
idea, Julius.
I could be taken as prisoner. Your prisoner.
Yeah.
Okay, now, again, 3 problems I see with that. 1, if you're my prisoner, you're going to be tied up. If they attack, we're in trouble with you being tied up.
Right. Forgot about
2,
that.
even if we do get in the camp and we find that they have the halfling and the lizard folk, even if I do become war chief somehow and they follow me as some fucking god, best case scenario, not that I expect this to happen, even then, I highly doubt they'll let me just take the halfling and the lizard man out with us. So, it is better for Gallo to sneak in and find them and get them out if they're alive.
Right. Well, like I said, it was just a kind of harebrained idea.
It made
Well-
sense. I thought of it myself, but then I realized, half elf, half orc. I mean, unless I call him my half brother, this ain't gonna work.
Sometimes-
Besides,
No reason to apologize. Sometimes the most harebrained schemes are wonderful plans. My master and me once encountered a race of fish people that had a unique ability that could turn whatever they worshipped into a god. In order to defeat that god, we had to convince them that my master was their god.
There's fish people?
Psst, don't tell Moonstone, he'll go nuts.
Racist.
No, but Xavier just looks like so bewildered at that information.
Julius also does, and like thinking back on the conversation they had the night before, kind of looks at Xavier wide-eyed, just like, there really are a lot of kinds of fish.
Oh my, did I kill any other babies?
Most likely not.
Not that kind of fish people. I know who he's talking about. They're a weird bunch.
Right.
With that actual ability, and in my opinion, that's one of the fucking.
Oh, I
And
know
just,
that.
like,
Those
slowly
fish
blinks.
fucking monsters are the weirdest goddamn. One of the weirdest. They're up there with the GIF as like the weirdest things in D&D.
Yeah, I love the idea that whatever they worship turns into a god. Like that's their collective power. Because
Yeah.
the story with the lighthouse is they see the light in the water, and then they worship that light, and then the lighthouse turns into a god, destroys the town, and
wow.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. But yeah, no. It's just you can see like this this look on Xavier's face as he just like quietly mumbles to himself. It's just I don't really I mean I saw like some weird fish inside of my day, but I guess I never really see them, so
Gross,
he just kinda like mumbles to himself before
Boy,
looking
lad,
back.
if you think those are weird, you should see some of the other species out there.
Ugh.
You ever heard of the Laxodons?
Do I?
there was one of them at my temple.
Oh, really? You know, I've heard about them. Never actually met one, but how are they?
That was a lie. I just wanted to appear cool.
Xavier looks over towards Julius and just kind of like with a cockeyed smile and just kind of raises his hands to the sky and it's just like, see what I mean? All sorts of different people.
Anyways, the Laxodons, they're interesting. They're actually elephant people.
And look, god damn.
And beyond that, in the hills up north or down south, there are hyena people.
Oh yeah, the gnolls.
I mean, I ain't ever grew up around like Savannah areas, so I ain't ever seen many hyenas. I've read of them, but
Also, guys, I gotta head
damn.
off.
Oh yeah, Nikki.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Ellie,
playing.
stop jumping! Stop!
I will post a new ship calculator thingy. I gotta do last week's too. I forgot.
Yeah, we all
last
forgot
week.
last week's.
All
My
right,
kid's
bye.
jumping in the shower. I'm gonna go fucking beat her ass.
Oh no!
All right, bye bye.
Bye! Both of you, good night!
Fucking
Nick.
Xavier, I'm getting sick of you stealing all my characters' get-ups.
Not
be
my
fair-
fault. We decided to choose the same inspiration.
And it seems like you stole. It seems like my characters were your inspiration.
Says the
God.
Grotus looks over at you with a raised eyebrow, man covered in scars.
To be
Can
fair,
I-
that sort of has to happen with the character class.
That is fair.
Can I say one thing before the recording ends? And well, there's still people to hear it because
Yep.
I have to. Just the mention of ropes and stuff. First off, Gala will say just like, you don't have to tie me properly. And it's not like I haven't gotten out of ropes before. Second off, I prefer to tie people, not be tied myself. Preferably. Well, actually, I've done it out in the wilderness before.
Just straight up ask, "You been tied before?"
That seems weird. Like how you've been captured before, and Grotus also not knowing what the fuck he's talking about.
He
I will
just
add into
starts
that,
slowing.
Any good adventurer has been tied up before.
Oh, it's an adventure, alright. In the bedroom.
See,
Context.
I wouldn't know
yes.
anything about that.
Oh.
My order
Right.
is celibate until the age of 30.
How old
You
are
got-
you?
21.
21. Right. Oh, damn! You got whole 9 years. Eight?
Well,
No, 9. 8?
if you ever change your mind.
My oath is quite sacred, thank you.
Alright. Putting the offer there.
He yells over at Moonstone to ask what the right number is, and he receives the number 9. He's like,
Meanwhile, I have a feeling Moonstone should also be shouting, "Don't fuck the party!"
absolutely.
Yells back, I do what I want!
Guys.
Hi.
I want to use my sword.
Your long ass sword, your 5-foot sword!
Are we dead RPing, or are we keeping going? Because this is your guys' call.
I don't
I'm
know.
done. I'm gonna bounce anyway.
No worries, Dylan.
Okay, have a
Thanks for
good
playing, buddy.
night!
Yep. I'll see y'all. It was good talking to y'all again.
Woo!